Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this show runs through the ages. Sinners and saints, goblins and haints, but beware as they say we're contagious. Sick with the truth, we uncover the lies. We beat on the drums as they march side by side. Wake up, my dear friends, and smell that fresh roast. Last night shall no longer exist. You're here by yourself, but you're never alone, as we spin stories you'll hear in the mist. Reptilians and greys, we folk who stay hidden. Mysterious booms, archaeology forbidden. Stay away from the village, keep off of the moors. There's a lady in white and bloodstains on the floor. So sit back and relax, take the load off your feet, as we're here to amaze, entertain, and complete. You see, my name is John, and Stacey's here too, and my, do we have something in store for you. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow, with your host, authors of Till Death and Beyond, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, have we been really busy.
We have been.
Just crazy busy, man. And let me tell you, sometimes it bees like that. And, you know, more and more, it seems that it's been like that a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. Now, we actually recorded, and this is also a broken record, but we recorded the monologue, if you will, of the show back about 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And during that show, we had something interesting happen. We were talking and thinking about what a stressful week it had been, what a stressful time it had been for me, and you know, thus it's been a stressful time for both of us because that's just how it works in this lovely life called marriage. And we decided in the midst of this talk that we were having, and it was a great episode, by the way. It goes in that little forgotten file, the major shoebox of, could be many shoeboxes, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Of forgotten episodes. But anyway, with all the best intentions, we decided to go to a private beach trip that we just decided to do on the spur of the moment. Secretly, and we took the rest of the weekend because the weekend had just commenced. We drove all night, and we stayed in a romantic getaway.
We did. It was very fun.
It was very fun.
Very fun.
It was #Arama. It was a lot of good time, but I needed to cleanse because the ocean cleanses me, and it cleanses my soul, and it makes me whole. And there's just something about it that's just unforgettable. Whenever I'm there, I could smell it. I can get it in my lungs and breathe out all the impurities. So that's what we had happen. I have to apologize because we expected to be able to come back and I could get through my Monday, my mundane, and make it to that night, and we could record our episode, finish recording it. All we had to do at that point was the news and stuff, you know, and something happened and something else happened and then a million things happened. Life. And man, let me tell you, the life is not as unexciting as it may seem when I say that. Now, I will backtrack a little bit. I have to start out this show by saying prayers to Nashville. You're in our thoughts. Nashville, Tennessee is home away from home for us. And it's a city that we bypass other events, even if the events are happening in cities near us, to go to Nashville. Okay, so Nashville is, we've even talked about it on the show. We've been going to Nashville since we've moved back here.
At least once a month.
Yeah, nonstop.
At least.
Nonstop. We love everything about the city. We feel like that we maybe belong there. You know, there's things about it that just really speak to us. There's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of entertainers there. There's a lot of artists there. There's vibrancy. There's, you know, beautiful things to look at. You're still down home, if you will, again. But they had a tornado that was massive, just massive. It was pretty crazy, and it really hit Cookeville harder than it did Nashville. And Cookeville's like 30 miles on the outskirts of Nashville, but it really hit that one devastatingly hard. So, you know, if you have been following the news, and seen this, I'm sure that they could use supplies. I'm sure they could use donations. It's just keep them in mind. There's a lot of tornadoes every year, everywhere. We rarely have them anywhere that close to us by choice.
A lot of, I think, historical buildings were damaged.
Yeah, well,
in Nashville.
Speaking of which, a place that we go, I always go for my wrestling, and it's called the Basement East. But also they have nonstop concerts there. They're really cool people. Love the building, and it's got the Believe in Nashville mural on the side that a lot of people seen on the news, where it was that building was torn down. That building was the one that Stacey and I have tickets to see Chris Jericho's band Fozzy, and I got Stacey and I the VIP. To meet the band and meet Chris Jericho coming up. So that's still up in the air as of showtime right now. We don't know what's happening with that concert, but that's the last of the concerns right now. Everybody in that building made it out okay. They made it to the basement, ironically enough. And so there was death, involved with this. So just keep everybody in your thoughts with that. I just wanted to touch on that really quickly. And, we just came back from Nashville. Well, me and Ariana. Ariana and I had our first daddy-daughter trip. And I took her, sat her front row for a Ring of Honor show. Had a blast. Had just a really great time. And, she got to she got to have the full experience. She got to stay in the hotel with Dad, which, I live in hotels, so I'm very picky. And this one stunk to high heaven. It was like, it was so weird. You walk down the hallways, it's kind of like Silent Hill after everything goes weird.
Right.
And you just wait for like a buckethead monster to jump out from somewhere. And we go into the room, and I'm not expecting anything good. And before the lights are really on or anything, I open the fridge. It's one of the things I do. And this pungent smell of open butt just kind of hits me.
Out of the fridge.
So I'm like, okay, well, drinks will be fine in there. So I put some drinks in there, turn the lights on. It's not so bad. And we had a really good time, ordered pizza, all that fun stuff that I like to do on the road with people. So she got to have that experience. It was a fun time, I didn't get in any fights.
No.
That's always a positive. So it was a good time. But again, Nashville, right? Something we love very much, and our hearts and thoughts are with you. I also want to say that this particular episode is dedicated to Jeff and Tanya Carter. Tanya, has had a difficult time recently, and you're in our thoughts, you're in our prayers. We love you guys very much. I know that we don't always get to interact the way that we wish we could, but international super spies have that happen. Oh, I wasn't supposed to.
You're not a very good spy, are you?
Wow. Well, the CIA said it's really a good thing. The fact that I say that, because then no one will ever buy it.
There you go.
So when I get subpoenaed.
Hiding in plain sight, aren't you?
Yeah. When I get subpoenaed, he's not a spy. What would he be a spy of? They'll be knocking on the door any moment now.
I know.
Speaking of the CIA, if they weren't watching us already, oh my God, are they going to? So a big announcement, as we are just the big announcement couple normally, we have a big announcement. If you missed it, shame. We all know your name. But if you missed it, we were a guest on Spaced Out Radio this past week, and we did what we do best. We were the fill-in guests for Mr. Dave Scott.
Yes.
Anytime Spaced Out Radio needs that filler, we will come up and fill her in. So we had a really great actually, experience on the show. And they announced something pretty cool.
Yes, they did.
They announced, do you want a drum roll? You want to tell them?
Oh, can I tell them?
Yeah, I'll let you have it.
Drum roll.
Okay.
I'll tell them. John and I are the new Saturday night hosts for Spaced Out Radio. Yay! Every Saturday night, live.
Yeah.
You get to hear us live on the radio.
We're live, pal. So what does this mean for you? Well, it means that you're still going to have the cool Paranormal Sideshow, your baby, our baby, your love, your way through your work week. We also are going to have the Saturday night, every Saturday night, we're going to be on terrestrial radio stations. And if you're wondering what that means, it's not anything to do with aliens. but actual radio stations with call letters and you tuning in and all this good stuff. Now, it's pretty cool that just is going to grow and grow and grow, but it's also available spacedoutradio.com. That's the easiest way to find out every way you can listen to it. They have a YouTube archive if you want to go back and listen to this episode we were just on. It's been up already, so it's there, and also you can do it any other way. Like I listened to it on iTunes already, and pretty cool deal. We love Dave Scott. He's a good friend of ours. David Weatherly set us up. It was a blind date, but it went really well. David knew his lovers really well, and he set us up, and we are going to be having guests.
Yes, it's a guest show.
Yeah, every single week. We will have a new guest. We'll have a new topic. We will bring our own John and Stacey to it. And it even has a little paranormal news in it at the end. So we'll have to figure out how to get it down to 3 stories a week. But it's going to be an accompaniment to what we do here. And this is always going to be our main baby, so no fears. But it's really a cool deal, guys, and it's a big deal. So we are going to be bringing a little East Coast redneck to these Canadian Mounties. And having a little bit of stuff. They're from British Columbia. Like the main home base of this operation is out of British Columbia. So while they're up there filming Supernatural, we are down here in the east, in the south, the southeast even, and we are enjoying ourselves in the hot sun rays and all that good stuff. But this is going to be a really big deal. Spaced Out Radio, and it's spacedoutradio.com. We're going to be the new Saturday host starting on March 14th, and I have no idea who our guest is. So I have a lot of ideas for guests that we're going to bring on and we're going to be reaching out to and having a lot of fun. There's a lot of things going on right now for us. A lot of things. I had a dream that we were going to have something with an M month, something big where things just started happening. Boom, 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 boom. Right around March 1st, we had a lot of boom, 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 boom.
I think we talked to him on March 1st.
Yeah, we did. So we had a lot of boom, boom. This is one of those boom, booms. Another part of the boom, boom already was announced, and that is we are working officially on the second book. The second book will officially be longer, more in depth. It's topic related. Can't tell you the topic because there's never been a book about it, but it is the paranormal field. If you want to look into paranormal being mysterious and crazy and oh my God. So it's totally John and Stacey. I can say that much.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to that because it's going to take us on travels around the United States, researching the book, talking to witnesses, things like that. Other than that, we have the super secret project of Question that has been going on for several years now that also on March 1st took a giant leap forward for mankind. And we got some great news. I have always told you guys, because I love you so much, and we are just like one big family, the ones who know, okay? And you know because you're able to read between the lines. We have a really smart, clever audience. I hope Spaced Out Radio is as clever as our audience, but our audience is truly like family and is truly the most brilliant people. Anyone I talk to from the listeners, whenever you send me letters, whenever we share stories, it is just absolutely the top echelon of the wisdom in the paranormal field, in the ufology field, just the whole gambit, and I appreciate every single one of you. We got some great news. Some things are moving forward at a rapid pace. And some people really liked what they either seen, heard, or smelled by us. And
smelled.
Well, it could have been. Maybe it's a new cologne. You never know.
Spectre.
It'd be like Sideshow. I
don't know if I'd want a cologne that smelled like Sideshow.
You smell like elephant dung and like the bearded lady. It might not be that bad.
It's an eclectic smell.
You'll get used to it. So be on the lookout for everything that's coming from us. And you may be seeing things a lot quicker than you ever thought. So I will say that. We are very excited and we are very busy. But in keeping with that, we are going to try to be cooking out as many episodes as we can. And it should be clear sailing. I need to knock on wood here, but I'm really thinking that we're not going to have any problem developing our episodes. And sometimes if you ever have us go 2 weeks or whatever, it's because we're not going to put an episode out without substance. It has to. We base heavily on how much weird is happening. And if we don't have any good stories, we don't have anything to share story-wise, then we're probably going to hold off until we get that big story or a few big stories to sync together, just because we don't like to put out crap episodes. We don't do filler, so to speak. We just do killer. And all our episodes are killer for a reason, and that's one of the reasons. Speaking of killer, I'm doing a little thing here. My new classic album of the week. I'm just going to mention it, not going to talk about it, not going to do a big monologue. Classic album of the week this week is Tesla's 5-Man Acoustical Jam from 1990.
Have you been listening to that?
I have been listening to that.
I don't know how you fit it in between all the brand new Ozzy you've been listening to.
And
that is a great album, by the way.
It is.
It's fantastic.
It really is. And sadly, maybe the last. But
I know. But what a way to go out.
It is a good way to go out. Way better than David Bowie went out. Just personal opinion here.
Just personal.
Personal opinion. David Bowie made the worst album.
I have no idea, so I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I remember listening to it and go, that guy's dead. I do, but
I think he was dead before he
made
this.
I have a friend that talks about it still. He's like, remember when we were listening to that new David Bowie album? You said, this guy's dead. And I was like, I do remember that. It was horrible. But, you can just tell sometimes when you hear something. No, it's terrible. I apologize. I do want to talk about something else.
Okay.
So, as all of you know, we listen to a lot of audiobooks. And we listen to audiobooks on the road because we're on the road a lot. Fancy that. But when we listen to them, we like the classics. And sometimes you'd be surprised by the classics. And sometimes you'll be surprised by the fact you think you know a story.
Right.
When you don't. So we listen to The Three Musketeers.
Yes.
We listen to it going to the beach, coming back from the beach. We listen to it, around town here. And it was spectacular, funny. It seemed modern. I had read pieces of it before.
Right.
And I'd always loved the movies, so much so I even owned like the old movies. And I just loved the story.
Right. We even like that new series they made.
Oh my God, the one on BBC like 8 years ago. Yeah. It was fantastic. It might not have been that long, but it feels like that long.
It was a while back.
Anyway, that was fantastic. And there's Constance is the love, for D'Artagnan. And I had no idea how that book ended.
I know.
I mean,
we almost had to pull off the side of the road.
we were on our way to a happy day. It was a happy day. Let's finish the book.
Yes, we're right at the end. We have an hour left.
Let's finish the book, sweetie. Let's have a good day. We're gonna go get something to eat. We're gonna have fun. Oh my God, they killed Constance. And it was the rest of the book where they're hunting down Milady. I have never wanted to kill Milady so bad. I wanted to do it myself.
I didn't know that that's how that was going to go. I thought for sure they would save her somehow.
Because in 2020, if they wrote the book, old girl power would have karate kicked him right in the jaw and took over and been like, ha, ha, ha.
Right.
But being that it was written when it was, she was killed by another woman.
Yes. Sad ending.
It was a pretty...
I mean, it came back up a little, but...
You can't get over that, though.
I was devastated because I didn't know.
I thought they were going to have little babies.
And live happily ever after.
Yeah, I mean, what the actual hell, right? It's like when you think you know fairy tales and then you read Grimm's fairy tales.
Like the real ones.
The real ones. And you're like, the world has always been just as sick. They have always been just as sick, haven't they?
Yes.
And God bless them all. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. But Three Musketeers is probably worth your time. If you've never given the whole book, like the original, a run, just do it for me. Just do it for me. Get into it. It doesn't matter that I spoiled it. Shut up, okay? It's the Three Musketeers. It's been out a couple of 100 years. Get over it. All right? I give you 3 weeks on spoilers, unless you let me know something. I give longer than that. I mean, I never tell anything about like the Yoda stuff and all that. The Mandalorian. Man, I love the Mandalorian.
It'll be back.
Oh, it's so good. Such a good show. Sorry I had to throw that in there sideways. You know, another concert we're going to.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the way to Nashville.
No.
We're going to K-Town.
We are.
Doing the K-Town Stomp, which is our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
But Stacey finally gets to see the Foo Fighters.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait. They're doing a 25th anniversary tour, and they're hitting on some of the spots they hit.
On the first tour.
Yeah, on the first tour. And one of those just happens to be Knoxville, Tennessee. And
somebody got a
John called me from work one day and said, look, honey, let's just get the tickets. I have the pre-sale code. And I don't think I ever loved him any more than I did in that moment when he said, I have the pre-sale code for Foo Fighters tickets.
Yeah, so we got pretty decent tickets.
We did.
And,
some good seats.
It's going to be awesome. And being the 25th anniversary of that tour, they're also filming a documentary. So I'm excited about the documentary. What I'm hoping is they have footage from that first tour, and somehow they mix those two footages together and they play like the same set list.
That'd be cool.
And, you know, of course, they'll have a longer set list, just like Pearl Jam. I heard they play like 3 hours. So a lot of times Pearl Jam will play through an album and you don't know they're doing it because they only do it a few times a year. Mm-hmm. And then they'll play like a set list.
Do they even bring another band with them? Or do they just play?
It doesn't say another band.
Yeah.
If they have one, it'll be like Jack Crappity and the Gyms, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Jack Crappity and the Gyms, though, have been doing a world tour, so it could work out that way. You never know. Like I said a while ago, I've been having the need to refresh, relax, regroup. Mm-hmm. And I've done that successfully, by the way. Mm-hmm. What that means for me is I work even more. I was already working a full schedule. Now I've been working extra.
You have been gone extra long.
Yes, gone extra long.
Gone extra long.
And I'm my guys are hating it, I promise you.
I'm sure.
But, you know, those things have to happen sometimes. And it's been rewarding in its own ways. But then in other ways, I've been having some really strange dreams. And we talk about things like that on the show here. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let me tell you about a dream I had last night.
Okay.
Because you don't know about this.
I don't, because you told me you needed to tell me, and then we never got to talk about it.
Right. So I had a dream that it was sort of post-apocalyptic, but it wasn't that far removed from right now. And the coronavirus outbreak had actually reached epic proportions.
Really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was bleeding out of my urine. It was all blood.
Oh.
But it wasn't the coronavirus. It was because of some of the fights I'd been in. But I was bleeding like just nonstop, like whenever and I was really in a lot of pain. And you were like, you can't do it. I was like, you guys have to eat. This is how it starts. Mm-hmm. I was like, you guys have to eat. And I had apparently muscled some people out of a shelter.
Oh.
And
okay.
Had my family down there and had taken their rations and stuff.
Oh. Well, I mean.
But you guys were okay.
Survival of the fittest, I suppose.
Yeah. So I was on my way to a drugstore to take whatever food and supplies, and people were turning into, well, maniacs, for lack of better words. Mm-hmm. And they were all sick and dying, and but they were because of this they were pillaging and doing all this stuff, right?
Of course, rioting and stuff,
right? So I had gloves, like minor gloves and all this stuff on my hands, and I would just knock them out cold if they got near me. I took a gun off one of them, and I made my way into this pharmacy. I got all the medicine that I could, and I got a bunch of food and stuff, and I got a shopping cart, put everything in a shopping cart, and then rode down this long hill, like with the gun, which was really fun in a dream.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So made it back to you guys, and we got in there, and you would think we'd be in Terra, you know, and like we'd be in all this horror and everything, and you're like, baby, what'd you get? And I got all kinds of speed. And for some reason we had a generator and we had our PlayStation.
Okay.
And you were like, you're just gonna have to bleep this. But you were like, fuck it, we're gonna have a good time. So me, you, and the girls, Kyler, we just had a blast. And I think like as the dream went on, it like, because it's my dreams, time passes,
right?
And we eventually have Cody in there with us. He just showed up,
of course,
I guess he had to fight his way there.
Probably.
Somehow he knew where we were going to be. I don't know. And you had an Apple Watch. Like I'd went out and got it off somebody. So we had all this bling in this like shelter.
Right.
And I kept getting new generators and
so you basically just dreamt that we were terrible people.
well, yeah. Like I dreamt that we were terrible people
but we were still alive.
And I'd went through all this crap, but I thought, no one ever makes a zombie movie like that.
Right.
Like where you're such a, you're so bad that you just go out and you take everything and you're just like, you don't have any trouble.
Right.
You're just
and
like,
you're just living it up.
Yeah. You're like, man, this is nice.
You're not concerned at all that people are turning into zombies.
Well, I hope the world never returns. How many times can we play Skyrim? Just Skyrim? Oh, I think we know that answer. Forever.
That's right.
I mean, I could totally live with the Batman game and the Skyrim game.
We have enough. There's enough room on our PlayStation. We downloaded enough games.
Yeah, we've got it made. Rest of the time, we can use the kids for entertainment. I mean, I don't know. Not that I'm like trying to pitch that we go find
an interesting dream. I don't have any idea what that could mean.
Yeah,
those of you who are dream interpreters.
Yeah, I didn't try to do an interpretation on this one.
No,
because
I feel like it's just
I just got that new phone.
Right.
And because I'm an iPhone junkie, it took me longer this time to get the new one, but I got the new iPhone, and I didn't want to put up a weird search history already. You don't want to
taint it with your weirdness.
Tell you something funny about that. So we've had vans outside the house before. We've had people watch us. We've had weird phone calls. Me and Ariana, we're in that hotel, right? I get a phone call in the room. Pick it up. Somebody's breathing. I put it back down. I make it over to the bed and lay down like it's some jackass.
Right.
It rings again. I go answer it. Still polite, and it's like. And it was really
really weird.
It was breathy like that.
That's crazy.
It was like
Was that hotel haunted?
Well, yes. And old. But it sounded like a movie where, and I didn't want to tell her this.
Right.
Sorry, Ariana, who's listening right now. It sounded like when you're watching a movie and the ghost is trying to talk on the phone. Someone will get the phone call and it'll be like, that kind of thing. And I was just like, well, it happened 4 times, bro. 4 times. And I was just like, screw this. I'm not doing it again. And I kind of cut a promo on the phone.
Right.
And Ari's just giggling because she always giggles when I get mad. And I go lay down at that point. It never does it again. Isn't that weird?
It's very weird.
So speaking on the weird thing, like I said, people watch. We know that we're being monitored, right?
Right.
You don't talk about the things we talk about
without somebody checking up on you.
I mean, it's just due diligence. I get it. But one of the warnings, and Dave will kill me from Spaced Out Radio, but I have to give a little bit of the warnings. So he gives me the list of words I can't say, right? Which is normal. And he gives me a list of the conspiracies I can't talk about, such as 9/11 being an inside job or, a bunch of things like that. I'm like, oh, man, I don't talk about stuff like that. Anyway, and he's like, politics. I'm like, dude, I don't touch politics because you're going to alienate somebody. And I get too many people thanking me for not bringing stuff that's going to trigger them.
Right. We're the escape.
Yeah. And that's always been our rule. Where we might joke about something, but it's just tongue in cheek. We're not going to ever put somebody in that position. So everything was going good. And then he's like, you just got to watch with the whole UFO thing. Because this is primarily a UFO show we're doing. But on the Spaced Out Radio. But he's like, you got to watch because we know for a fact we're being monitored. And he may have a name of somebody that,
Right.
So anyway, I won't go too far into that.
Right.
But if we already weren't.
Right. We're just adding to the list now.
Yeah.
The file just got thicker.
Because now we're actually hitting people driving.
Right.
Midnight and all this stuff. So that part to me is the coolest part about doing real radio.
Right. Because
I want to start out, because we are on the East Coast, with something like, greetings, midnight traveler, something cool.
Right.
I've been thinking about it because, I mean, everybody has something.
That's right. I'm sure we'll hit our groove.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure we'll hit our groove.
Yeah, I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty cool with it. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great way for us to keep the Paranormal Sideshow absolutely on track. You know, I think that I don't think it'll work the opposite of that. I think that will excite us to do an episode over here. So, and we're upgrading all our equipment out of our own dime.
Yes.
So out of our own pocket, we are having to bite that big bullet. So guess what? It's a great time to find our Patreon and become a patron yourself. Now, patrons get all kinds of perks, but right now, while we're buying all this brand new equipment, you get extra perks of pick your nude. And
no, they don't.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was all just me anyway, but it was like, did you want it with, semi-nude and of course I'm just talking about the color of my shirt because there is a nude color, right? Wouldn't it be funny? Like, you guys want nudes and we'd send them like nude color clothes. Anyway, funny. No, listen, we love all our patrons, absolutely, and we enjoy, when you buy the book, we get to sign the book, send it to you, get that little personal part to it. We normally stuff something else in there if we can, and just because it's me stuffing it, and Stacey's like, you didn't put an extra thing. No, not at all. There's nothing extra in here at all. I may even kiss the book, It's just like, just bless it.
We actually need to go to the post office because I got to send a book off to Australia.
Oh.
We had someone from Australia buy one.
You don't say.
That's right.
I got somebody from down under. Well, we have a lot of listeners down there. I've not ever had to send anything down there. So this is breaking mold here.
That's right.
I'm really excited.
Yes.
Well, I'm definitely sending my new Aussie friend. Aussie. Is it Aussie or Aussie?
I don't really know how you pronounce that. Aussie.
Aussie? You know what? There's going to be 25,000 people.
I feel like Bugs Bunny in that Hansel and Gretel cartoon. I'm going, Hansel?
Hansel? But yeah, we're going to have so many people get a hold of us.
I know, because we don't know how to say it.
If you're like, Jesus, you know what? We're going to Darkness Radio. I mean, at least they can say it. But you know what? Dave doesn't look anywhere near as good as me, baby. I've lost a bunch of weight, by the way. I gain it sometimes just in case their hibernation happens.
It's getting warmer. It's going to be picture time again.
Oh, yeah.
It's time to lose the weight. We got to do all of our pictures.
As we've talked about before, about once a year we take pictures. During that time, we will go get our teeth fixed. We'll get our weight fixed. We'll
hit the tanning bed a couple times.
Hit the tanning bed, all that good stuff, and get the pictures to last throughout the year. I think this time we should do it in different clothes, like for the season.
Oh, yeah. We'll go ahead and do our Christmas pictures, and we'll go ahead and do like every...
People will be like, why are they sweating profusely in this Christmas picture?
They're so tan for Christmas.
Listen, I like milkshakes, and I can't have my milkshakes.
No.
So I've lost, 20 pounds. So it's doing really good.
Yes,
and
you're doing great.
I'm going to keep going because I'm almost to show weight because we have stuff we're working on, like I said, and they're going to need, to look at me. I'll just say that. So I like to be my hot and sexy self when I can.
Yes.
I mean, who has hair like this, baby? Nobody. Nobody. Like I told Dave Scott the other night, you can keep your hair, baby. I've got a perfect scalp, and that's hard to do.
It is.
I've seen some of those scalps.
Some people have wonky scalps.
Yeah.
They can't do the bald
People
thing.
walking around like with Egyptologists behind them going, oh yeah, measuring the skull. That's one weird thing. I talked about like in old books. You know how much I love Sherlock. I've even got you into it now.
Right.
So you like listening to the stories.
I love the Sherlock stories. They're great.
The Sherlock I know in and out, right? I can start at the first, go through every book and tell you the narrative on every one of them. One weird thing they point out a lot, and this is really freaking strange. So they'll have somebody meet Sherlock, or they'll meet somebody and go, whoa, look at that skull. Seriously, they put it over like this. So the way Conan Doyle writes, he's just like, well, we knew he was smart from the size of that cranium. And I'm just thinking, wow, you guys looked at that completely different than we do.
Yeah.
It's just, and there was like a guy wanting to take a plaster mold of Sherlock after he died. It's like, can I have this to see, because you've got this perfect cranium development, and they even kind of talk about things you wouldn't be able to talk about now,
right?
With different races and stuff and craniums.
Well, it's an old
Yeah.
It's an old book.
Yeah, it's an old book. But nothing bad. It's just a way they say it.
Right.
And it's just interesting because you don't just do that now. You don't.
No.
Polite conversation, I wouldn't come up and go, wow, look at that honker. You have to be one of those rare breeds of smart smelling, not smart smelling, but smart and can smell. Well, never mind. Just never mind. I think that only leads me to one place.
Okay.
I'm going to do a list.
Ooh, a list.
A list.
Okay.
I like it how you said it like it's foreign language. Ooh, a list.
I was trying to make it sound like we never do lists. Like I'm surprised that you have a list.
When we do list, honey.
Okay.
And it's a list I promised.
Oh, all right.
I wanted to do a list about ancient Egypt because we love ancient Egypt.
We do.
And we don't love the people who manage ancient Egypt.
No.
And we don't love most of the archaeologists. Although if you're an archaeologist from a reputable college and you're listening to this right now, go rogue. Forget about Younger Jar. Go deep. Dig deeper. That needs to be our shirt. We need to make that shirt right now.
Dig deeper?
Yo, Arky. Dig deeper.
There you go.
Do you mind if we call you Arky? So I wonder if they call themselves anything. I think Arky's good.
You like Arky for
Arky.
archaeologists?
Yo, Arky. Dig deeper. And speaking of my list, I'm going to have to give my list. And my list is going to go something little. I got a little ditty. A little ditty goes something like this. I wonder if Jack and Diane's the only song that says a little ditty.
I don't know.
We need to write a song called Little Ditty.
Maybe.
Just like do ditties about everything. What is a ditty? I guess a song?
I guess.
Yeah, okay. So, number 10 on my mysteries of Egypt, which you could do 500 of.
Right.
The Lost Labyrinth of Egypt, which is just magnificent.
Yes.
We could keep it there and you could just think about it. But we won't do that. So 2,500 years ago, there was a massive labyrinth in Egypt that, in the words of one who saw it, surpassed even the pyramids.
Wow.
It was a massive building, 2 stories tall. Inside, there were unbelievable 3,000 different rooms, all connected through a winding maze of passages, so complex that nobody could find their way out without a guide. At the bottom, there was an underground level that served as a tomb for kings, and at the top was a massive roof made out of a single gigantic stone. Countless ancient writers described having seen it firsthand, but 2,500 years later, we still aren't sure where it is. The closest thing we found to it is a massive 300-meter wide stone plateau that some believe was once the foundation of the labyrinth. If it is, though, the top stories have been completely lost to time. In 2008, a team of georadar specialists scanned the plateau and found that underneath there appears to be an underground labyrinth, just like the one ancient writers had described. As of yet, though, nobody has ever excavated or stepped inside. Until
they just haven't told you they have.
Until somebody makes it to the labyrinth, we won't know for sure whether we've really found Egypt's greatest archaeological wonder or not.
So what was the purpose of the labyrinth, do you think?
I
think it was like a punishment?
No, I would say that maybe it wasn't the greatest kings. Maybe it was the most ruthless kings.
Maybe.
And the labyrinth was so the spirits couldn't get out.
Could you imagine having to learn that place so you could be a guide?
Maybe you start as a child.
Maybe.
Something like that. Or you put dingoes behind them. I mean, the one who figures it out probably is not going to forget.
Probably not.
Got to go through a few people, but I mean, eventually you have the non-dingo eating guide.
Maybe they just put a bunch of people in there, and the ones that make it out, they're like, oh, look, you're the next guide.
Yeah. Anyway, pretty cool. It's cool to think. And of course, all you have to do is take my suggestion and take a big bulldozer and let's go knock it all down.
No,
see what's inside. Well, we can build it back.
No, I don't think we can.
Oh, yeah, I don't guess we can.
We haven't figured that nugget out yet.
So number 9, the unknown Queen of Egypt. In 2015, archaeologists stumbled upon the tomb of a woman who was buried among the Great Pyramids of the Old Kingdom of Egypt. In her tomb were inscriptions calling her both the wife of the king and the mother of the king. You'd think she's from Appalachia. 4,500 years ago, allegedly, when this woman was alive, she would have been one of the most important people on the planet. She would have had greater power than any woman in the nation, and nobody has any idea who she is. Historians have dubbed her Quintacawis III, under the assumption that she was the daughter of Queen Quintacawis II. They believe she may have been the wife of Pharaoh Neferere. I don't know how to say that.
It's a weird one.
And the mother of Pharaoh Mekher. But they don't really know. They're just guessing. If her name was Quintacawis III, then there are no references to her whatsoever in anything we've ever found. Whoever she was once an incredibly powerful woman, but today she's little more than an enigma. She may have been like the prostitute.
That's really strange. I don't think she would have had such a good burial.
Yeah. No, they would have. They would have. Especially if it was legal. They've been, hey, we need to put Bambi over there. That's horrible.
That's horrible.
You are such a misogynist.
I know.
Number 8, the Sphinx of Israel. Yeah, that last part, huh?
Sphinx of Israel. Okay.
Yeah. In 2013, in Tel Hazor, Israel, archaeologists found something they never expected to find so far away from Egypt, a 4,000-year-old Egyptian sphinx. Specifically, they found the paws of the statue resting on a base. The rest of it, it's believed, was deliberately destroyed thousands of years ago. Before somebody toppled it over, though, it would have been 1 meter, or like 3.5 feet, tall and weighed half a ton. Nobody knows what an Egyptian statue was doing in Israel. The only clue left behind is an inscription on the base that bears the name King Maserinus. Again, pronunciation. The name of a pharaoh who ruled over Egypt around 2500 BC. It's highly unlikely that Tel Hazor was conquered by the Egyptians during the reign of Maserinus, aka Mikarare. Like it matters. Like it matters. Tel Hazor was a trading hub in Canaan, directly between Egypt and Babylon. It was vital to the economic well-being of two of the biggest powers in the area. Their best guess is that it was a gift. If it was a gift, though, it's not clear why the king sent it, or for that matter, why anyone got angry enough to shatter it. All we really know for sure is that some reason somebody built a sphinx 1,000 kilometers away from the Great Sphinx of Giza.
It wasn't a very impressive sphinx, though, was it?
Not particularly, no. It was a
miniature sphinx.
It'd be cool if it was actually scale, though, and it had the secrets. Like you could open it up and see, here's where the secrets are. And that's why they did.
Very strange.
That's why they destroyed it. That's my first thought.
I've never even heard of that.
Well, we all know the Sphinx is not from 5,000 BC or whatever. It's freaking like 30,000.
It's super old.
Yeah.
Super old.
30,000 or more years old. I'm sorry. It's just, the evidence is overwhelming. So anyway, number 7, the mysterious death of King Tut. King Tutankhamun was only 19 years old when he died, and nobody knows for sure what happened. His death is a complete mystery, but not because he was in the prime of his life. The reason that Tut's death is such a mystery is that there were so many things wrong with him that it's hard to tell which one actually finished him off.
It's very ill, huh?
King Tut was in terrible health. He had malaria, for one thing, and he was born with so many genetic disabilities that historians are convinced his parents must have been brother and sister.
I think more than just his parents, probably.
Yeah.
That many deficiencies, it's probably through the family.
Yeah. He had a club foot and genetic defects that some believe may have made his death nothing more than just a matter of time. He also had a fractured skull that for a long time was thought by archaeologists to be a sign that he'd been stabbed in the head. Probably as a baby, and he lived.
Somebody dropped it.
They're like, look at that thing. Whoops, I dropped a knife. Today, it's believed that his head just got damaged while his body was being embalmed, which is a good possibility. But the possibility that he was murdered hasn't been ruled out. He broke his knee shortly before he died, too, which has led to a theory that he was killed in a chariot accident. If he was, though, getting on that chariot in the first place was a strange decision. Tut was so deformed that he couldn't even stand without somebody propping him up. It could have been anything.
I mean, so he could have just fallen over?
Yeah, or it could have been a whole...
Getting out of bed or something?
Or it could have been a whole slew of different things affecting him at once. The only thing we know for sure is that King Tut didn't get a lot of good news in his last month alive.
He was really young, too.
19, yeah.
Yeah.
So, number 6, the hidden chamber of the Great Pyramid.
Ooh.
The greatest pyramid of them all was allegedly built 4,500 years ago, if you believe anything about mainstream archaeology, which I do not, and I will just say, go read some Graham Hancock and you'll find out some good stuff there. It's not just, it's old, because they don't know how to freaking, anyway. We won't even say the years. Let's forget we said the years.
Okay.
The greatest pyramid of them all is old as crap.
Right.
And they say it was for a pharaoh, but it wasn't. It was nobody inside. It is a massive structure, almost 150 meters or 490 feet for those playing at home, tall, built with more than 2.3 million stone blocks. And yet, until recently, there only seemed to be 3 chambers inside. If that seems like a lot of wasted space for you, you're not alone. That's why a team scanned the pyramid in November 2017 to see if there was anything they missed. Sure enough, above the Great Gallery of the pyramid, they found signs that there might be a large hidden chamber as large as the biggest room in the whole pyramid. The strange thing is the Egyptians deliberately built the hidden chamber to be completely inaccessible. There are no corridors or pathways connected to it. The only way they could have put anything inside is if they filled the chamber while they were building the pyramid, then sealed it up afterwards. We still haven't seen inside the hidden chamber, but whatever is in there, that's a mystery.
It is. We just did that story where another team's going in to verify that hidden chamber. More scans.
Yeah, I mean,
so
the scan technology we have now, they could probably find out, quite a bit about what's in there. So, number 5.
Okay.
Hieroglyphs that make no sense. Egyptian tombs can get a bit old, not just in the literal sense either. In all honesty, most run a familiar pattern. First lost to time and then rediscovered. Elite individuals are identified and then come buried with a ton of stuff. Inscriptions and murals make a movie of their lives. In 2019, officials announced a tomb that bucked the trend. A year earlier, archaeologists found burials at Saqqara from 2,000 years ago. One of the modest coffins was badly decayed, but curious details survived. At the level of the person's neck, the coffin lid was decorated with a painted necklace. Lower down, hieroglyphs normally provide the deceased's name. But when experts tried to read the inscription, it made no sense. There was nothing wrong with their reading skills. The hieroglyphics were an imitation of the real thing and translated into utter nonsense. It is plausible that the artist was illiterate because none of the signs had the correct shape. The person also enigmatically painted a blue Anubis on the coffin. Normally, this jackal-headed god is depicted in black. What could this mean? Your guess is as good as ours.
I do remember reading a story about that a while back. I think the line of thinking was that it was somebody that was not important, somebody that was more poor, and they were just trying to imitate, what it would be like to have a better funeral.
Right. I mean,
for their loved one.
Yeah, maybe somebody really loved their wife and
wanted it to be special, and that's why it was just gibberish. They were just copying what they had seen.
It's like Pharaoh Nicholas Sparks or something. So, number 4, the Dendera light. It was dark, Dendera light.
Oh no. I wasn't even expecting that.
On the wall of a temple in Dendera, Egypt.
You can't say it now without laughing, can you?
There is a massive relief showing a very strange image. It shows, according to the usual interpretation, a snake in a big ball of fire flying out of a lotus flower while being held by a pillar with human arms, because that's much easier to describe than a freaking light bulb.
Yeah.
It's a weird picture, but not just because the pillar has arms. It just happens to look exactly like a model of a Crookes tube, a type of early light bulb invented in the 19th century.
In fact, it looks so much like a light bulb that some people think it just might be a diagram showing how to make one. The room that shows the Dendera light is the only room in the whole temple that didn't have 5 burning lamps. Archaeologists have found residue that shows Egyptians burned lamps in every other part of the building except for this one. So if they didn't have an early version of a light bulb stored in here, how did they see anything? And if the room was pitch black, why did they bother putting such an intricate image on the wall in the first place?
That's very interesting.
Very strange. If they did have light bulbs because they had free energy, which was kind of like one of the theories, Tesla probably picked it up. But
I'm not going to be able to get that Dendera thing out of my head now.
No, that's...
Thanks a lot.
It's the best thing ever. The best thing ever. Number 3, the destroyed pyramid. The pyramid of Djedefre should have the highest point of any pyramid in Egypt. Djedefre made sure of it. He didn't have the resources to build the biggest pyramid, but he used a little workaround to make sure the tip of his tomb was just a little bit taller than everybody else's. He built it on a hill. Can you imagine how small that guy's...
Yeah, really. Before you said he built it on a hill, I was just imagining like the very top of the pyramid just going straight up. So it was taller than everybody else's.
For some reason, though, while all the other pyramids of Egypt are still standing after thousands of years, Djedefre's pyramid alone has been totally destroyed. All that's left is the base. Nobody's entirely clear on what happened to it, but there are theories. Some think Djedefre simply died before they were able to get much of the work done, and his pyramid was left in ruins. Others think that Romans quarried it for stones 2,000 years ago. Romans would do that, tearing down a massive historical monument, and still others think that the people of Egypt just really, really hated Djedefre. So much so that they were willing to pull apart an entire pyramid just out of spite.
I mean, that's possible. You just don't build pyramids on hills. That just doesn't...
We hate you with the silent D's. I mean, it's just crazy, huh? Number 2. The mummy wrapped in a foreign book.
The mummy's wrapped in a book.
The mummy wrapped in a foreign book.
Okay, I can't wait to hear this one.
I mean, this sounds like a Sherlock
It does.
story.
It does.
Sherlock Holmes and the mummy wrapped in a foreign book. I tell you, Watson, there's no mysteries anymore. Cocaine, cocaine, cocaine. Sometimes I think he's just like having some weird trip during the whole thing. I would like for the last book just to have been Watson,
like they never really did anything. It was all just Sherlock's imagination.
Or what if Watson's a junkie and Sherlock never existed?
And he's really the one doing the cocaine.
Yeah, the doctor is Dr. Sherlock. Oh my God.
It's a twist.
We gotta write that. You can write Sherlock. Did I tell you that?
No.
It's so old that you can totally write, use the characters, use everything about it, and there's no copyright laws.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And you can just write stories and publish them. I seen a book from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Really?
No joke. And it looks like the best Sherlock fanfic there is.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it actually goes canon. And there's a lot of them like that because I was going to start reading those, Anyway, man, that's a good story. That's what BBC would do to me.
Right.
There's
right at the end.
Tonight on BBC One, the debut of the new Sherlock, All right. So, once again, the mummy wrapped in a foreign book. It's like a mummy's like really into this foreign book, It's like, Mommy, are you ready? Do you understand what he's saying? I don't get a word of it. Could you move the gauze? In 1848, a man bought an ancient Egyptian mummy off a shopkeeper in Alexandria because you could do that in 1848.
Right.
For years, he put it on display as a decoration, not realizing how strange of an artifact he'd found. Who puts a dead body on display are people just crazy? I don't know where these tarantulas keep coming from. What the hell? How did our civilization even survive?
Human sacrifice.
Oh. It's your answer for everything, you witch. All right. For years, he put it on display as a decoration, not realizing how strange of an artifact he'd found. After peeling off her bandages a few decades later,
Story's just getting weirder and weirder.
Science is found. I just seen him right there and go, "Oh, is this tight?"
It's like particularly lonely evening.
He's been staring at it for 20 years, babe.
He's been drinking a
You
little.
know, the mommy starts looking good when you're by yourself. It's like, they use some good stuff on them. I mean, I'm sure it's mostly not dust. For years, he put it on display as a decoration, not realizing how strange it is. I'm having to fast forward. An artifact he'd found after peeling off her bandages a few decades later. Scientists found something very unusual. The mummy had been wrapped in the linen pages of a book, and it wasn't written in Egyptian. It took years of investigation to figure out what language it was, but today we know that it is written in Etruscan, the language of the ancient civilization that once lived in modern-day Italy. It's a language we know little about. The words wrapped around this mummy make up the longest Etruscan text that we've ever found. There are still a lot of questions left unanswered, though. For one thing, we still don't know what the text says. We can only understand a few words, which seems to be dates and names of gods. And beyond that, we can only speculate as to what it means or why anyone would wrap it around a dead body. Above all, we have no idea why an Etruscan book was wrapped around a mummy in Egypt. Was she Etruscan? If so, what's she doing in Egypt? And what did she put in her final message to the world? Probably whatever you do, don't try to read this.
Really? Well, maybe she didn't write it. Maybe they needed something to wrap her in, and that was laying around. They didn't want to use an Egyptian book.
Maybe back then it was like fish markets. You know, they had
recycling. I don't know.
Maybe it was like during some kind of plague or something.
I feel like,
yeah, get your mommy.
Maybe she was maybe she just came to Egypt to get married, and that was like a little homage to where she was from.
An homage. All right. We've had sexy mummies getting unwrapped. We've had a lot of things. Then there was Egypt. Dendera. Then there's Egypt. But now we have number one. And number one is the lost land of Punt. Yeah, because they used to just run it down the field.
What is Punt?
Ancient Egyptian writings are full of references to a place called Punt. It was an ancient African kingdom full of gold, ivory, and exotic animals that excited the Egyptians' imaginations. Maybe it was like the casino back in Egyptian times.
It sounds like a zoo. What?
It's like Vegas. And it must have been extremely powerful. It was a place that commanded the respect of the Egyptians, a land they had dubbed God's land. There's no question that Punt existed. There are countless mentions of it in ancient writings. There's even a picture of the Queen of Punt in an ancient Egyptian temple. But despite how powerful and important this place must have been, we've never found it. The only traces we have of Punt are the artifacts the Egyptians kept. Scientists, desperate to figure out where the kingdom was, studied the mummified remains of 2 baboons that the Egyptians got from Punt, and determined that the baboons, at least, probably came from like eastern Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. This at least gives us a starting point in the hunt to find Punt. But it's a huge area for an archaeological dig or search. Mm-hmm. And if we ever do find the ruins of the kingdom of Punt, it'll open up a whole new series of mysteries to solve and uncover our past.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because
it could just be buried.
Yeah, I mean,
under the sand.
It probably is buried. Thanks,
Mm-hmm.
Stacey.
Mm-hmm.
We should have you teach some courses. Of course it's buried. They just recently found a whole civilization. Another one they thought was just gone. Mm-hmm. And it happens all the time. I mean, you can look up literally every year. And thank you, Listverse, by the way, because on this one, it was such a broad topic that I had to really focus my attention because I went off. Like, okay, so the things that Stacey and I are really into would be forgotten civilizations. And the fact of, the time before time is the way we dub it all the time. But when you start getting into that, you're getting into a lot of hyperbole and conjecture, and it's not good for a list because everybody has an opinion.
Right.
They all kind of agree on certain timelines.
Right.
And even now, mainstream archaeology, I mean, we're seeing reports recently. This past year, it got us really excited. This past year in the United States, in Idaho of all places, they have found, another place. And it's not the first place in North America, but it's another place in North America that has artifacts that are different than all the ones they had found before. Okay.
Right.
So the ones they had found before all kind of lend their hand to the fact, they came across the big ice bridge and came across the accepted migration path. But the artifacts they find here not only date till more like 20,000 years ago, 15 to 20,000 years ago, which is supposed to be impossible. But they also are exactly like artifacts found in Japan from around the same period. So that would mean that these Japanese, even though they wouldn't have been Japanese, from that area had sailed over, or maybe they sailed over. There's also theories that there was other ways to get across at one point. We'll just say that.
Right.
But let's just say they sailed over and they were a seafaring culture, and they made their way there, and for whatever hell reason, they went to Idaho, because that's pretty far in to go.
It is.
It is. I
I
could see you going to the
suppose
coast.
It depends which direction you're coming.
And they would have came from the California side.
Right, because Idaho's right next to Washington.
I mean, Japan's right there.
Right.
So it's a long trip, but nonetheless.
Still doesn't really explain why they walked that far inland, though. I mean,
unless
the whole state of Washington.
Unless water was covering the other part.
This is very true.
Good
point.
Come to think of it, how often do we find? I mean, in Kentucky we find ocean. They just recently found that they found some shark skeletons. Yeah. So we don't know, and plus we're dealing with timelines that we really don't know. Because just because you find this, think about all the thousands of years that we don't understand what happened.
Right.
So again, I have to give you that little timeline, because you're like, well, you should. The thing about it, folks, is we hardly know. We hardly know anything from 2,000 years ago. Okay, we do know things, whatever the victors wrote, but we barely know anything. We have some stuff from the Bible, which is that an accurate word for word? No, it's accurate in its own way. I mean, but it's more of the message, and sometimes it's hard to tell what's a parable and what's fact. So as far as records from monks and what have you, I still think there's just not a lot. I mean, it's called the Dark Ages after that for a reason. It's dark because it went dark, because there's no, little to no writing. So, I mean, I'm just saying we can go back with good history, maybe 1,500 years. And, before that, it gets real sketchy. So that's crazy to think about, because you talk about 5,000 BC, you talk about 10,000 BC. I mean, it's insane. And obviously, one thing we do know, and this is one of the things I wanted to do on the list, was just the fact of how the world's changing, how our world history is changing. And it's more accepted now. Columbus is laughed at now. People just know that Vikings were here.
Right.
And it's accepted without being written, I believe. It's going to change.
Well, no, I mean, it already changed in Ariana's school lessons.
Oh, really?
Yes, that Columbus didn't actually even set foot on the continent of North America.
And we always knew that.
He landed in the Bahamas or something, on an island.
Right. He was just taking he wanted to go where the women don't wear no tops.
I remember that. That was from a movie.
Yeah, it was Buddy.
That's
1981,
right.
Walter Matthau. So the thing I like is in the old movies, they always pull up and they're like, oh, these savages, they're so disgusted by them. And man, let me tell you, a bunch of floppy boobies come out. Those sailors, ain't gonna care if they've got some, a piece of wood going through their nose or whatever. There is no such thing as savages when you have an ability to go in a dark room.
Right.
Just saying. Just saying.
The true history with John Edwards.
Well, I mean, it's common sense history with John Edwards. Hi, I'm John Edwards, and I'm here to give you common sense history. We're going to talk about sex. You know why? That's all they thought about. You know what else they thought about? Drugs. So everything is based on a couple of, 3 factors. Wealth, how to steal wealth, this is all under the same heading. Mm-hmm. How to acquire wealth from neighbors, that kind of stuff. Then the second thing to think about, not in this order, is sex. How to get sex, how to say we're traveling, or we're going to have sex, whatever. And the third thing that they think about would be drugs. Let's try this plant. I wonder what these savages eat. I wonder what, Mm-hmm. And I'm just telling you, it's never changed. And just know everybody lives in denial. So they come back and they're like, the dark continent. It was so terrible. And when you see these places, they're always like paradise. It's always paradise, but they would give you all this phony baloney money,
right,
to go out and take your guys. And, these guys are going home to their wives. They're going, oh, God, we're going to have to go to this place called Barbados. And it's horrible. It's filled with
wilderness
and these heathens and their nastiness. And, it's just like, are you going to be gone 9 years this time? And bring back all those helpers that are mysteriously mocha color. They're all mocha there. It's, they've got your nose. What? They're like pets. When you're around them a long time, you start looking just like them. Shut up, woman. Somebody write a passage somewhere that we can say that. It's done, sir. Thank you. Anyway, that's how it used to be.
I believe you.
Men are horrible. Men are horrible. So, speaking of horrible men, I think it's time for paranormal news.
She's the GOAT of paranormal news, traveling the globe to find you the stories you didn't know you needed to hear, and the stories she knows you'll never forget. It's time for Stacey Edwards and Paranormal News.
All right, so let's get to the news.
Let's.
And I have to start the news off today with something sad.
Aw.
Yeah, I know, but let's do it and we'll get it out of the way. And we didn't mention this earlier because I wanted to give it its own special little place in the show. But it's about our friend, Mad Mike Hughes.
Oh, man. This one's
And
rough.
I'm sure everyone's heard by now that poor Mad Mike has passed on. He has left this earth.
Into the wild blue yonder.
He was shooting off one of his homemade rockets, doing a test flight for, and I believe it was for that same show that he did the flight for before, the Homemade Astronauts, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And it did not go well. It did not go well, and the landing was bad, and he succumbed to his injuries. So, sad news. Sad news.
Well, it was kind of weird. As soon as it happened, for whatever reason, mm-hmm. that was one of those days that, we're always on top of the news. We get a lot of alerts because we're always having to look for mm-hmm. news. And I knew that one pretty much right after, it happened. Mm-hmm. And for about 3 days, I was inundated with people getting a hold of me and you. Mm-hmm. And, like, hey, have you heard the news? Have you heard the news? Mm-hmm. Sending us that story. And thank you very much for that. Mm-hmm. But it really reminded me how much he meant to the show last year.
Right. Well, we talked about him quite a lot.
It may have been like last 2 years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, it was just, we had fun at his expense many times.
We did.
But we also really admired what he was doing and that he believed so hard in what he was doing. Mm-hmm. That he really put himself in harm's way. You got to admire that. It's like we just watched the movie Midway, which I love war movies and especially World War II. It's a big fascination of mine. But Midway was beautiful. It was a really well done version of the whole Pearl Harbor saga. Mm-hmm. And they actually treated the Japanese and the Americans pretty well in that movie, I thought. They gave good sides to both.
Right.
But one of your main heroes in the movie that it followed, it was great because it's it's a true story, and he was given many medals and stuff after he did some really maverick cowboy crazy stuff. And what was it, the medal?
I think he won a certain medal for his blatant disregard for his own personal safety.
Yeah, like he turned the tide, helped turn the tide in the Pacific due to his own disregard for his personal safety.
And he never flew again after that.
Yeah, he didn't.
So.
He didn't. And that kind of reminds me of Mad Mike. I think he loved that attention he was getting, obviously. And,
right.
But
I mean, I really think he wanted to build a rocket that would, launch him into space. I don't know if he ever left plans behind for his rockoon idea, the rocket balloon.
Right.
But perhaps he had someone helping him, a protege or something that can take up the mantle. And
do you think somebody would actually take one of his plans at this point and do anything with him?
No, I don't think so. But, it's hard to see it come to an end.
Right. No, it is. It's a very sad end, and it's hard to believe we let it go that far. Like somebody didn't step in and go, man,
this is not a good idea.
Yeah. And that really speaks volumes of us as a society, I think, of, let the crazy man build the junk rocket, right?
Right.
But we had a lot of fun with him, and all seriousness, rest in peace, Mad Mike. I hope you found out your answers. I hope you're up there and going, oh my God, it's really flat. You got to let me go back. You have to let me go back. We can't let you do that, Mike. I'm sorry. But it's really flat. We know, Mike. We realize. But what am I supposed to do? We're going to let you guard the edge. There's really an edge, and it's an ice wall. That's Mad Mike's hell.
There you are.
So,
all right. So I just had to get that little bit of, news out of the way. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to our regularly scheduled news here.
Let's do it.
All right, this first story is out of Alaska. And I wanted to put this one first because it's about one of the sky trumpet type noises.
Yes.
And you love these. And this one I thought was really interesting because of some of the details about what happened with the sound.
Intrigue me, woman.
So very early in the morning, at like 5 a.m. one morning, there was this horribly loud sound that went all the way through Anchorage. And it came in bursts. It was getting louder and then it would go away. It was heard like really widespread. A lot of people heard it. And some of the descriptions from the people that heard it, they would say things like screeching metal on metal. And
that's exactly it.
Some say it sounded like underwater moaning, although I don't think that's exactly accurate.
Mermaids.
That's very weird. But one resident went outside and recorded it. So there's a video where you can hear it, and it is exactly the screeching sky trumpety sound like what we heard in Maine. And apparently this sound has been heard around Anchorage for years, like off and on, but this was a sharp like uptick of reports. Like there was tons of people, like they have a Facebook page for Trumpets in the Sky of Anchorage. It's like a group where people that live there can go on there and post things. And after this happened, there was like tons of new requests to be on the page and people posting their comments. And
can I ask you a question? What sounds like a trumpet in that? I know we call it sky trumpets, and it's always been called sky trumpets.
It's if you play a trumpet very, very badly, maybe, just blaring the sound and not actually making music with it.
Yeah,
I think is kind of what it's like.
Yeah, so you kind of hope it's not Jesus and like the really poorly playing angel choir. It's like he turns around, he keeps trying to come back.
Right.
And he's like, come on, for art thou the worst trumpet players I've ever heard.
Well, here's some interesting points about this particular event. So they talked to someone from the Anchorage airport, and the spokesman for the airport listened to the video and suggested that it was heavy equipment because he thought he heard this backup beeper sound in it. But then they checked with maintenance department and there was not any work going on that would cause any of that kind of sound when the video was recorded. And also, Anchorage's director of maintenance and operations said that whatever it was not coming from any of the city workers or equipment. They were not doing anything. So it's one of those things where it sounded like it was some kind of large equipment, but nobody was using any large equipment. They even asked the Alaska Railroad, and a spokesman from the railroad said that they weren't doing anything. If it had been them, they would have let the public know so that everyone would know. And I believe even the guy from the airport said that if they had been doing stuff at the airport, there's no way it could have been heard as far as this was heard. So a lot of really interesting different reports. I love that they have a community Facebook page for this particular sound. I know a lot of people did go on there and they suggested, there was it was snow scraping and things like that. But the problem with those theories is that this sound happens in the summer also, or during times when they don't have to do any kind of snow removal. So every theory that people would suggest, there's a counter argument to.
Well, the thing is, they're thinking small.
Right.
We've been studying this for a decade, and it's global, and it's always the same sound. It doesn't matter if it's Romanian woods. It doesn't matter if it's Alaska. It doesn't matter if it's Maine. It doesn't matter if it's South Carolina. It always sounds the same.
Right. Right.
And it's that weird metal on metal. And it's like dimensions crashing is what I always say.
Yes. And this article does even mention that one of the most popular theories is called trumpets in the sky.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that people call it. So,
yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting.
I'd like to find the first person that named that.
I thought it was really interesting because of how similar it was to what we heard and what we've been seeing a lot recently, actually. I mean, it's like it's having one of those upswings of events. I don't know, it died away for a while and now it's happening again. So
yeah, it's just, I wonder how many times it happens and people just, maybe somebody's wife says, well, it's probably just heavy machinery.
Right. And they just pass it off. They're like, oh yeah, that's probably what it is.
Right.
And then they don't think about it twice.
It would be somebody like us that knows already what that sounds like.
Right.
Because just like happened in Maine, we were sitting there inside and we heard it happen. I'm like, oh, holy crap. Could that be? And Ariana, I had just spent an hour with her days before teaching her about mysterious booms and sky trumpets.
Right. And showing her videos.
Yeah, she's always really interested to learn about anything from our world. And when it was happening, she looks at me, she goes, I think it is. And that's the rest is history.
All right. Well, since we're doing a story like that, I'm just going to go ahead and do a mysterious boom story.
Okay.
Because this one is kind of weird. It's a little interesting. So this is from Arizona.
Right.
So there was a really loud mystery boom heard in Arizona. And it was the normal, typical one. Lots of phone calls to the police department, heard widespread, no specific explanation right off the bat. However, a local planetary scientist named Robert Ward, who heard the sound, recognized it, thought it was a meteor, and he ran outside and with his video camera, and he did see some lingering smoke-like effect that happens when you get a meteor that enters the atmosphere. So they technically had, a good explanation for this loud, mysterious boom, that it was a meteor. However, a few days later, there was another boom exactly like that, and there was no explanation for this one. Even the planetary scientist was like, I'm baffled. I have no idea. There's no way that's another meteor coming in. We don't know what that is. There was no train. There was nothing, no evidence of anything. So there is still a mystery there. They have no idea where this other mysterious boom comes from. So I thought it was really strange because, they did have the meteor, and how likely would it be that two meteors fell in the exact same location?
Well, I mean, I won't rule it out, but no. And sometimes, the booms are not just one boom.
Right.
It happens for months. It happens for weeks. It's just over and over. Sometimes there's the mysterious humming sound. There's a lot of chapters to this book.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. But I just thought I'd throw those in there because I haven't done a story like that in a while, and I thought those two were really interesting.
Yeah, I always love the mysterious booms and sky trumpets, especially the sky trumpets. I'm more fond of that.
All right, so let's just mention this next story really quickly since we were talking about meteors, things like that. This is a story from Germany about a large fireball that was seen in the sky, and it was so bright. I think they said it was bright as the sun almost. It lit up the sky, and this was seen from several places in Europe. I mean, London, Germany, Belgium,
right,
Paris. It's crazy how far away you could see this. And it was also accompanied by a sonic boom. And I believe as of the time I got this article, it was witnessed by 194 people.
Right.
It was just crazy. But if you go to the American Meteor Society, there's pictures, there's videos. It's really crazy and amazing.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty beautiful. I mean, and the scale they do is the numbered, but it's the brightest you can get.
Right, right. Yeah, like you can't go, there's no more, the scales, that's the end of the scale.
Yeah.
It would be off a scale, I guess.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Which I would not want to see that. That would be like that level of dust there is.
Right, right.
You know, don't want to see it off the scale.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on to something cursed.
Ooh.
Cursed. So this is a story.
Had to get there, didn't you?
So this is a story from an ancient Greek cemetery. And it's about some archaeologists who have discovered 30 tablets at the bottom of an ancient well. And each of these tablets are engraved with curses intended to harm the recipient.
Okay. Where is this at?
In Athens, Greece.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Any dating?
It says that the cursed tablets have been chucked into a 2,500-year-old well. And the perpetrators are unknown because their names aren't on the tablets, just the person that they want to curse.
Yeah, you normally don't sign those things.
And they contain messages calling on the help of the gods of the underworld. So I believe what the Archaeological Institute believes is that they could be traced back to the 4th century BCE. And the reason they say that is there was legislation that was passed by Demetrius of Phalerum. He was a Greek statesman who dominated Athens during that time, and the legislation included a new law that said in that particular cemetery you could not place cursed tablets in tombs, because previously you could put the tablets in the tombs with your deceased loved one and bury them, but apparently they passed legislation that wouldn't allow them to do that, and people didn't want to not curse the people they didn't like, so they decided to throw them in the well. They figured that it would do the same job. I mean, basically, it's still going underground, right?
That's pretty awesome. I mean, I love the Greek anyway.
Right, right.
It's such a you always look at the Greeks and the Romans, right?
Right, right.
The Greeks were just so much better. I don't know. It was just like
I feel like the Romans sort of copied a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, they did copy a lot of it, but they also, arguably did it better. As far as if you're looking at expansion and all that stuff. But that's all I remember them for is like, it's always like the Romans came and ruined it. That could be a book.
Right, right.
And then the Romans ruined it. The Greeks were always interested in stuff like, astrology and theology and, and I know the Romans were too. But it just seemed the Romans were really passionate about their warfare.
Right. Yeah, well, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So really interesting story. I believe it says in here that the majority of the curses were like binding spells designed to restrict your rivals.
And they took that away?
Yeah. So I think a lot of times they used them in things like lawsuits, like when you didn't want that person to testify against you or something.
This just in, Dateline, Athens, Greece. For some unknown reason, the dead have returned to life. Albeit in skeleton form, but they are mad.
All right. Well, let's move on to this next story from France.
Oh,
and we talked about this a while back. There was a mysterious rock in France that had a message on it. Remember, it was covered in lettering. And they did a contest and let people...
It's probably bar soap.
Try to decipher it. They sent pictures out and they were asking people to try
no idea what it is.
Decipher the message.
Pierre, have you ever seen one of these?
Oh, wow.
No.
So it's a 250-year-old mysterious inscription. It had engravings covering up almost one entire side, as well as drawings, including one of a sailboat that had like a mast and a rudder. And
Did it take one big fat guy a really long time to figure out it was a sailboat?
Maybe. 2 dates. He never saw it, really. People just told him it was a sailboat.
Oh, a sailboat. Ah!
So 2 dates can be seen on the rock, 1786 and 1787. And so they have winners for the contest. They have 2 people that they say tied as possible solutions for the mystery. And I love this story because it says it was finally deciphered, and deciphered's like in quotes, because nobody really deciphered the actual writing. basically people just sent in their ideas of what they thought the rock said. And I totally wish I had knew that was what that competition was about, because I would have sent in a great one. And they got entries.
What would you have sent in?
I'm not sure. I'd have to sit down and think about it.
But then how do you know it would have been great?
Because I would have took time.
Well, the way you said that was like you had already thought it up.
Most of the entries came from France, but there's also suggestions from the United States and Brazil and Russia and Spain and Italy, everywhere. And the jury was made up mostly of historians, and they selected 2 people that had similar stories, and so they couldn't decide, so they just had them split the prize.
What are we even paying the historians for?
I have no idea.
I mean, they're judging contests now because they can't figure out what. Now, what was it written in? Was it a freaking cuneiform tablet? I mean, what was it that we couldn't decipher?
It's just a big stone, and it has these engravings in it, and they don't know. It's not like a language that's recognized. See, they could decipher it if it was.
Is it pictures or is it just dashes and dots? I mean.
No, it's just engravings. It looks like somewhat like letters, maybe.
Like
not hieroglyphics. Not exactly like hieroglyphics. They're not pictures. They're just weird letters and characters that are not recognized. But clearly there was a date, a couple of dates. So the dates must have been recognized. And there's a picture of a boat.
I wonder if it's a depiction of how to get here from the Middle Earth.
Possibly.
You know what I mean? Like,
possibly.
And it's their language, and 2 little green children brought it up or something. Blue. Were they blue or green?
They were green.
They were green?
I think they were green, yes.
Yeah.
I think.
I messed the story up last time I told it to some friends. I told them it was the children of Woolworth. And I think that they were like picturing a Woolworth.
Like, you mean the 5 and dime store? What are you doing?
You're like, I knew it was old. It wasn't around anymore. But Jesus, I didn't know it's from the Middle Ages. Yes. That was the first Woolworths.
Yes. All right. So the first guy that won, his suggestion was that the inscription was about a soldier who may have died at sea during a storm. And another soldier then engraved the rock in memory of the dead man.
Yeah, see, that wouldn't be right because he would have stuck it up his ass. I mean, he would have went full Tarantino.
And the second one was suggested that the inscription was by someone expressing their anger against those who caused the death of a friend.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I don't see how those stories are similar, really.
No,
at all.
If the rock was half covered in blood.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's just that's just people guessing at what the story is. That's not deciphering the rock. They've done nothing but come up with stories.
They should have actually contacted the Rock.
I bet he could do it.
Can you tell us what this is cooking, please? I mean,
well, anyway, they gave out the prize. Maybe they were just.
Did they let a psychic hold it?
No, it's huge. You can't hold it. It's like at the base of a hill, and you can walk up to it and see it. It's very big.
Could they lower the psychic on it?
I'm sure the psychic could walk up to it and touch it.
Well, yeah, but we make it dramatic.
Oh,
yes. I want a crane.
Do like a Mission Impossible thing.
Yeah, just like lower the psychic. I'm really not comfortable here. Could you please let me down? You're coming down. Not like that. Why can't I just walk up and touch it? I don't know. You're the psychic. Why don't you?
We don't make the rules.
Did you not foresee this? That's not funny. It gets really old.
That is a joke that gets old quick, isn't it?
It really does. Especially after you tell somebody like something they never would have imagined, right?
Right.
It always happens right then. I think it's their way of breaking the ice of the weirdness, you know? So anytime I've ever told somebody something, just miraculous.
Right.
Like, your grandmother wore red underwear every day, but they started as white. And they're like, oh my God, no one knew that. I mean, she told me, but wow. Huh. So what's the lottery numbers for this weekend?
Oh, the lottery thing. I know. They're like, oh, if you're psychic, how come you're not rich and have won the lottery every time?
Well, because I'm a living psychic.
Exactly. It doesn't work that way.
A couple dead psychics did that.
Can't use it for personal
In
gain.
fact, you ever see the thing? Lotteries, listen, I hate to do this. I promised I would never do this, but I'm going to do it now. So this is a fact, yo.
Okay.
You guys into the show. You're listening. You might be driving right now. You might be, on the Autobahn in a big truck. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But wherever you are, this is a fact. And listen to me closely. Heed my warning. Because I love all of you. And I can't tell the spaced out radio crowd this. Because they have rules there. one of the rules is probably, John, don't give your crazy psychic readings on the air. So, all lotteries are cursed. I believe that the lotteries are controlled by an organization that is sort of shadowistic. And that's a new word I just created.
I think people get it, though.
But I think that the money is distributed, and it's kind of like dirty money, like blood money kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's distributed, and it's almost like so they can have patsies, and almost like their own form of sacrifice in a weird way. I know this sounds crazy, because it does sound crazy, but go look up lottery winners and what happened to them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And find me a couple of good examples. Okay. Traditionally, and as far as the odds go, a lot of times people win like $10 million. And I'm not talking about, your cousin Teresa won, $200 down at the 7-Eleven. I'm talking about like 10 million, 30 million, 100 million.
Life-changing money.
Life-changing money. A lot of times these people die quickly. Or they get divorced, or something horrible happens, or
definitely causes family problems.
It does. Now that can be seen from a human standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. But however you want to look at it, I mean, we've had curses that we've dealt with before, and that's how they take effect. It's not like some mystical little red.
If you were an evil type person or entity, and you really wanted to ruin somebody's life, what better way to ruin their life than by making them think something good happened to them? Like winning the lottery. Like they're going to accept this because it's amazing for them. Right. But then it's going to ruin their life. Yeah. And I win or whatever.
Yeah. Or oh, honey, I just got this dream job, and then they have an affair. Stuff like that. It's, I don't know. There's ways around. I can see ways around to really ruin things, but it does. I've just always noticed, we talk about patterns a lot, and the patterns for lottery winners is ugly. It's just ugly. Mm-hmm. And it's probably got a lot to do with the greed that's involved, and families are horrible. Families suck. Immediate family's great, but everybody knows that the family sucks. Right. I mean, you get out there when it gets past like immediate, like mom, dad, grandpa, grandma. Right. It gets pretty bad.
It does.
Cousins and second cousins and stuff. I mean, you can have them that, like, for instance, maybe they own a garage, but yet they'll charge you more than fair market value to fix your brakes. Kind of stuff like that. Family sucks. And I'm sure this is a huge generalization, folks. I'm sure somebody out there has this wonderful family where the second cousins come over and make you barbecue, and they never want anything from you but what happens a lot of times is people win these lotteries and they put their name all over the place. And one funny thing for me, I have got this new fascination with old newspaper articles. Right. Because I'm a weird person. And you can find a lot online. So
there's like news archives online.
I like going and looking just at not big news stories, but local news quips. Right. From like 1930s, 20s, 40s, in that range. And the fun thing about it is when something happens, people always, back then they would put like Howard Miller from 32, Ranchester Drive, the little White House with the red, with the Pekingese, just won $42 million. Said he doesn't have a safe to put it in. He's going to put it under the floorboards. I mean, it's really, it's always like that. Or like the ones I do see a whole lot is it was so-and-so was complained on by Joe Miller, who lives at 1313 Sunset. Right. And it's really like that. And you're like, okay, why did they put that? I mean, because, next week it's going to be...
They just starting a fight? What's like, happening here?
Tragedy on Sunset. Last night, Joe Miller mysteriously was murdered.
We have no idea who did it.
No suspects. But go back and look at some articles sometimes. It's really funny how trusting people were. And they just put it all out there. Yeah. It was really cool. I like the way the news used to be because it was not so highfalutin. Like our local newspaper here, should still be that way.
Right.
It should still be like, well, Farmer Johnson has a pretty garden this year.
Where it's like one great big piece of paper and all the words are tiny, and they cram it all in there.
I love it because it was a town crier. It was like, I'll use Sherlock again. They always talk about those London papers and they have the agony columns.
Right.
And I love the agony columns. And whenever he always finds his cases, a lot of times in the agony columns, because he'll go through there and it's like the classifieds or whatever.
Right.
But people used to put little messages. Like they'd be like, see me at midnight. You know who this is.
Right.
And it was stuff. Wouldn't that not be awesome?
I kind of feel like we have something sort of like that. You know, the paper that they put out with all the local shows in it.
Yeah, I think that went out of business.
I don't know. I thought I saw some at a restaurant.
Oh, maybe
recently. I'm not
did.
sure. We don't read it, but I know that it has a lot of little local, like, interest stories and a little classified section, and then it's mostly just entertainment. You know, what kind of entertainment was around.
That's why real journalism's dead. Because they just take the Associated Press, and it's a scary world when everything is dictated by whoever, they put this out nationally. And I think even they used to give national stories their own twist, like you could tell what state you're reading it in. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like the Northern War of Aggression has ended for now.
I do find sometimes
South Carolina.
Sometimes I get stories for the show, news stories from little tiny local papers like you're talking about. Like there are still some out there. Like
the Bucksnort, Tennessee Libertarian or something?
Yeah, stuff like that. Very specific
Right.
area just for their community. Kind of everybody knows everybody, so they just use first names
Right.
kind of newspapers.
Yeah, I mean, I love that though. And I know that they still have some of those, and they come out like every third day.
Right.
It's more of an afterthought. I don't know how they stay in business, but
right.
The most famous paper where we live right now is the Busted. There's something called Tri-Cities Busted, okay? But I would hope that everywhere has something like this.
Has a Busted for their area.
And it's so funny because it's like a high school yearbook for me. Because every time I go through there, I'm like, oh, hey, I wondered what, Willie was doing. Bob the 10,
That's the reason why people smile in their mugshots now.
Right.
Because they want to get on the front of the magazine.
Yeah.
It's like a competition.
Something I'll never know.
I don't know. All right. Well, let's move on to this next story. And this is about a man who discovered a strange, quote, voodoo doll that had human teeth. So this is from Cape Canaveral, Florida, where a beachgoer recently came across this disturbing object washed up on the sand. So it's this weird, what they're calling a voodoo doll. It was made out of coconut shells, snakeskin, feathers, and sticks. And it appeared to be vaguely human or possibly spider-like in design because it had several legs. And the most disturbing... Is
that close enough to really put either or?
I mean, it didn't here.
Okay.
I saw the pictures. It was like, it looked like it had a couple of extra arms on one side, but there weren't any other. It was kind of beat up. I mean, it got washed up on shore,
It was either a Greyhound bus or a Volkswagen, sir.
The most disturbing, however, was the fact that it appeared to have actual human teeth in its mouth. Real teeth.
No, I got you with the whole human part.
And so the man that found it, his name was Bruce Robertson. And he said it was this really strange doll made out of coconuts. And it was kind of terrifying for him. And, but he was still interested. Like, he was scared of it, but he was really interested in it. And he believed that it was some kind of voodoo type doll.
Right.
Because of the way it was made. So he did what he thought he should do, and he threw it back into the ocean. Isn't that awful? However, later on, after doing some research on it, he decided that it may have actually just been like a good luck doll from Africa, that it could be representing the god Anansi. The spider.
No, I don't, but okay.
It's the African spider god. And they believe it was he believes it may have been some kind of good luck charm. So he's saying, if somebody else finds it, just don't throw it away.
No, I think he's wrong.
It's probably not evil.
I'm thinking it was a voodoo doll. It was stuck there. It was under the sand. There was a little erosion happen. It came up out of the sand and it was sent there, I believe it was maybe 300 years ago. And the voodoo priestess that put it there was like, your family will drown. No matter how many hundreds of years go by, darling. Your family will all drown as soon as someone throws it in the water.
As soon as it gets wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why he would think that it was the spider god, Anansi, if it had human teeth. Like,
maybe he dreamed it.
I don't know. Very strange. Very strange. But there are pictures, if you go to the article, and it is creepy. It's got like coconut head with the teeth. It's got snake skin wrapped around it. Some people that saw the pictures said they thought there was human skin on there too, but that's not a verified report.
Right. Yeah, that's Jimmy in the basement.
Yeah, that's just somebody saying that's what it looked like from a picture. So.
Saw an orb on it too.
Well, while we're speaking about creepy dolls, I'm going to talk about one from a Mexican river.
Nope.
And
nope.
they're calling it cursed.
Big pile of nope.
Cursed
Listen,
doll.
I saw this thing over a month ago.
Mm-hmm. This did happen last month, yes.
And I didn't send it to you. Okay.
No, I know.
Yeah, yeah. So little behind the scenes here.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, lovely wife was getting ready for the show, and I caught her looking at something, and I looked over and I was like, I was like, no, you didn't get that, on a reason. And I remember when I seen it
Mm-hmm.
because good friend of the show, Tim Woolworth, had actually posted the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
No story to it.
Right.
But the pictures were bad enough. He put like, found in a river in Mexico, whatever. I looked at it and man, something about the pictures did something to me.
Yeah.
So when I looked at them, I felt something. I felt something wrong.
Right.
And it was just wrong. So I didn't want anything to do with it. And then I thought it was gone. And lo and behold, she finds it.
So residents in the community of San Antonio La Esperanza reportedly found this creepy looking doll. And what happened was they saw it in the river and they thought that it might be a dead body. So they went down into the water and they pulled it out, and it was tightly wrapped in a blanket and it was secured with a rope. And when they undid the rope and the blanket, it revealed a life-size doll. And it looks, the way it's made, it had a hinged mouth, looks very much like a ventriloquist dummy, only it was much larger. It wasn't small where you could hold it on your lap. And it did have a base under its feet. So it looked like something you could stand up as a decoration, although I don't know who would want that in their house. And they have no idea why it was in the river, why it was wrapped up, why it was tied up with rope. There was no explanation for it at all. And so they were really weirded out and freaked out, and they decided they were going to burn it. So they put it on a fire, and the thing wouldn't burn at first. I mean, you could see there's a video, and they're standing there, and then they show pictures of it after they tried to burn it, which just made it look even creepier. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that eventually that it did burn after they tried 3 or 4 times, but because it was so hard, they decided that it was a cursed doll that they pulled out of the river. And nobody has any idea why it would even be in there.
Or a really wet piece of wood.
Right. Yeah, that was another explanation. However...
She's a witch. Why do you think she's a witch?
Later on, after this original story came out, a YouTube journalist went and visited the man who made the doll.
Oh.
He does like a journalist channel.
No, I got you. I wasn't laughing at him.
He found out, I guess he's from the area. I have not seen this. I just saw this written down in the article. But he went to the man who made the doll. His name was Julio. And Julio said that he made it and sold it years ago, and he didn't remember who had even bought it. So he has no idea who put it in the river. But according to him, when he made it, he used an epoxy resin on it, and the epoxy resin is very difficult to burn. And that's why one of the reasons, other than it being soaking wet, that it took it so long to burn.
I bet old Julio had some other kind of resin around the house.
Well, the pictures are very creepy, and there's still the mystery of why someone would chuck this doll. I feel like they had it in their house. Its eyes like followed them or something. It was creepy. The mouth moved on its own, and they were like, nope. They wrapped it up and threw it in the river.
So what it was Grandpa Gonzalez. Mm-hmm. He bought it because he liked a lot of weird stuff. He liked weird taxidermy. He liked crazy stuff. He mutilated a chihuahua and turned it into a chupacabra.
Aww.
All kinds of stuff he just had around the house. Think Lost Boys, Grandpa.
Right.
And, he passed away from natural causes in his sleep. Mm-hmm. And he had it in his will that he wanted to be taxidermied and had the kids put it up. And they were like, no, Grandpa. And they burned him. But they went ahead and started getting rid of his crap. And they could get rid of everything in a yard sale. But everybody was like, I'm not taking the big marionette. Just not going to take it.
That thing's creepy.
So when it was done, they were like, well, what can we do? And they decided to wrap it and throw it in the river.
That's what you do with cursed items.
Well, I don't think it would have been cursed. I think maybe it was just, ridiculous.
Right.
And so they threw it in there. The suit of armor went in there too, but you never heard anything about that, did you?
Nope.
So that's just my theory. It's either that or the wife finally had enough. Mm-hmm. The husband lost his sight and she's like, no, baby, it's still here.
Well, either that or he went to work and she threw it in the river and was like, somebody came in and stole your statue. They didn't take anything else, but they took the statue.
She'd been having an affair with it.
With the statue?
Yeah, for years. And he comes home and he's like, oh. And he took it and
he put a hit out on his statue.
Yeah. It's like she's been getting her wood somewhere else.
There's all kinds of explanations. I mean, it's like a wide open mystery there.
Well, it's you know what? They all make a lot more sense than the people who picked what the rock was in France.
That's very true.
Historians. The historians agreed on this.
This is possibly a story because there's a picture of a boat on it.
I kind of want to put the historians against the mainstream archaeologist. Oh, I just want to get one like under a what is it? The thing that the big the pendulum. Sorry. I couldn't believe I couldn't remember, of all people that couldn't remember a pendulum. But I'd like to get an archaeologist and put him under a pendulum, okay? Mm-hmm. And tell them, build them up for it on the way here when the sack's over their head. It's got to be a burlap sack.
Right.
And I want them brought on horse and buggy. So just for,
And they have to take the long ways. You can't tell where you're at.
Well, just for the ambiance. No, just do a bunch of circles around the house.
Right, there you go.
And so pull them in and bring them in. I'll beat them for a minute, but still yet I don't want to hurt them. But we're going to tie them to a table. Mm-hmm. And we'll put all you girls in like cool white flowing gowns.
Right.
We're very Hammer horror.
Right.
And we'll have the pendulum swing back and forth, and I'll be like, okay, Barry, so welcome to your death. Whoa.
So is the pendulum going to be like a big axe or something?
Well, what are you doing this for? I don't understand. It's simple, Barry. All you have to do is tell us your honest opinion. How old is North America? How long have humans been intelligently occupying? Kind of get some real stuff out of them. Do you really think the pyramids 5,000 years old? So.
Oh, wow.
All we got to do is get it on video, and then boom. Mm-hmm. We
go to jail?
What? Well, maybe not.
Prison time.
Well, no,
us.
he wouldn't send us to jail if we had it on. Yeah, he would.
Yeah, that would be proof. We'd be sealing our own fate. Oh.
Okay,
right.
We're not the ones that's going to do that. If
right.
you ever see it happen.
Right.
And plus I have to find a pendulum and then be able to put it in my ceiling without it falling in. Mm-hmm. And they don't make ceilings like they used to.
No, they really don't.
And they just don't make pendulums. Hey, did you know that the Iron Maiden wasn't real?
Really? They really close people in a box of nails?
They didn't. It was never existed. That was made like in the 20th century. It was made in popular culture. It may have been in a book or a movie. Huh. Maybe in the 19th century. Regardless, last 200 years. Mm-hmm. And it was just something dreamed up.
That's crazy because, they were pretty creative with torture back in the day.
They were. Mm-hmm. And it's such a great thing of torture. But the Iron Maiden, which is really devastated me to find that out.
Well, to be honest, it would be hard to regulate an Iron Maiden. Like if you had an extremely large person and you want, that could be devastating. But if you had a very skinny person, they wouldn't get hurt at all.
I mean, you could just buy different levels of it, different sizes. I mean, if you're going to have one maiden.
That's very cumbersome for your dungeon, for your torture dungeon. Mm-hmm. I mean, where are you going to put your thumb screws and your stretching rack or whatever it's called?
The stretching rack, yeah. The thumb screws don't take that much space.
That's true. They can sit on the shelf.
We could sort those. But, what would be your instrument of torture? Like you are the mistress of the dungeon.
Right.
So what would be your instrument of destruction for getting, people to admit they're Christians?
Wow. That's a hard question because I'm not a violent person. I'm not a violent person. I don't like to hurt things. You know that. I feel like I would do something more along the lines of like hot wax or, under the fingernail kind of things. Because that stuff I know hurts, where you shove things under the fingernails.
So would it fit the crime? Because let's just say it's, you're just taking care of bad prisoners.
So we're talking about criminals.
Well,
we're not
now
just
we are.
Interrogating.
I'm making it easier for you.
No, if it was criminals, I'd do that thing like they did on Game of Thrones with the rat in the,
Yeah.
in the bucket.
I was always a big fan of drawing and quartering.
That's true.
And like I said, for ones that weren't severe, the Shetland ponies,
right.
So it wouldn't actually rip your arms off, but it would not be comfortable.
Right.
Unless it was. It's like pop your back and just like, oh my God.
Medieval chiropractic.
Yeah. But I'm a big fan of hot oil. Dip. I mean, you still got most of your body, but you dip those feet in some oil.
I think what I meant was hot oil. I said hot wax, which is a totally different thing.
Yeah, it's kind of erotic. It's okay.
Sorry.
We'll work on that one later. But I seen where you were getting at. I think if somebody
tar and feather. Is that an old thing?
I think that's more.
Is that more like Revolutionary War?
I think that's more Southern.
Right.
So anyway, I think that I would go really punishment fits the crime. So like say somebody diddled somebody.
Right.
I would put somebody that kind of fit that description of what they, their victim in front of them and say it was a guy. I would put his unblood-filled member in front of a torch.
Right.
Like a blue fire torch.
Right.
And put the blue fire flame where it would have to be if, to prove his innocence or not.
Right.
So if this did not, if he was clean, that we're not going to have a problem.
Right.
If he's,
if he's excited.
Yeah, then he's going to have an issue.
Wow. That took some dreaming up, I think.
I've thought about that for years.
Okay. So we would be
Blood Eagle too. That way, ever since I saw that on Vikings.
Oh wow, okay.
That was really, really awesome.
Thank goodness there aren't such things as torture dungeons anymore.
Oh, live in your dream world. What about waterboarding? I mean, that's still practiced.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Stay there. I guarantee you there's still torture. As long as there's people, there's torture.
Oh, all right. Well, let's move on to something happier. How's that?
Okay. But Iron Maidens were not real. Should be.
Should have been.
My problem with it is there's no admitting anything after that. Like when you close those spikes,
right?
They're dead, right?
Well, I was under the impression, because it always looked like there was space in there, that it wasn't meant to impale them enough to kill them, just impale them enough to make it hurt. The heart's not that deep. I
mean...
Yeah, but I mean, I thought it was just meant to go, like just barely in, just enough to hurt and make you bleed, but not...
Sorry. I was just thinking
but not kill you.
I was thinking of many, like, barely ins that... yeah, that's never the truth. I'm just going to let you know. So right. if the torturer says, hey, baby, I'm just going to barely put this in you and it'll be all good. And it's going to go all the way. So just to let you know, torturers are devious. But continue.
All right. Well, let's go on to this next story. And this is about a man from Russia. Okay. His name is Oleg Rezanov.
Of course his name's Oleg Rezanov.
And he did this really amazing stunt on Valentine's Day, but I wanted to talk about it because of the reason that he did it and his thought process. I thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, I thought it was incredibly stupid what he did, but the thought process behind it was kind of interesting. So in front of a bunch of media people, they call it media scrum.
Yes, that's what they always call that.
He got down on his side in a heart-shaped snow coffin. They dug a big heart-shaped space out of the snow. In Russia, it was like minus 32 degrees Celsius.
So summer.
Yeah. He was not wearing anything except just like some very barely thin clothing. That's it. Wasn't like packed out or anything. And he laid down. They covered him with snow, completely covered him with snow, totally burying him all the way. Then they poured water onto the snow, freezing it immediately. He stayed under there for 12 minutes and 52 seconds. And then that's when they came in and dug him out. Now, when he came out, he couldn't speak and he was kind of shaking because he was obviously very cold, but he was not harmed at all and just went and warmed up and was perfectly fine. And he does these stunts a lot. He's one of the people that train himself to be able to withstand cold. And his thinking is that cold is one of the keys to immortality. And he believes that these tricks that he's doing have already made him 15 years younger. And that he really hopes one day they make him immortal, that he's going to continue to do them, to bury himself in the snow and to do all this cold stuff. He claims that when he does it, he just completely goes into a different reality, puts himself into a trance.
It's called near death.
And goes into a different state of mind. It's like this trance state where he prepares himself and tells himself that he is not cold. And clearly it works.
So what have I told you for years? Mm-hmm. I mean, I know it's not to that extreme.
You say that if you don't think that you're cold, then when you're outside, you won't be cold.
Right.
That never works for me because I'm always cold.
I do it with everything, though. Like, ever since I was a kid, when I was a child, I practiced these things.
Right.
I had a lot of time, and I would practice lowering my heart rate, okay, because I had read somewhere that people with a low heart rate live longer.
Right. I think that's what his deal is. Yes.
So I would sit and lower my heart rate, and I could just do it, and I could lower my breathing and do it on command. So I could also stay underwater for a long time. I mean, listen, I could hold my breath without cheating for a ridiculous amount of time.
That's impressive. I can't do that.
I built myself up to it, and I can still do it I do it so long that people
worry.
Well, no, they lie. They're always like, "Oh, you're breathing," or you're doing something," and I hate that argument when you're not doing something.
Right.
So I avoid that. But I used to do things like that. Like, that's where I got the muscle control of my eyeballs, and like when I shake my eyeballs and I flare each side of my nose and my ears wiggle, and it's because I was a weird kid. But that kind of stuff is doable. And, you can even tell the people what happens the few times that I've had to stay overnight in a hospital and they hook me up to the machine.
Oh, yeah. Your heart rate goes down really low where it makes the machine go off.
Yeah, the alarm.
And the alarm on the machine go off, and they have to come check on you. But it's like when you fall asleep.
Every time I fall asleep. It's like I get near death.
Must be why you look so young.
Oh, it could be because I'm 25 as well.
It could be. Well, one part of the story that I thought was interesting was that he dedicated his experiment to his wife, Irina. He has a wife and 2 kids, but she was not there because she was scared that he was going to die.
Oh.
And he even said that he was shocked that he coped with it.
It would be funny if she was actually hanging out with some guy that swallows fire.
But I thought it was really funny because he claimed that he did this to, he's doing it because he wants to experiment with it. But, he's like, oh, I'm dedicating this to my wife and I love her so much. And his wife's at home with the 2 kids just fuming because her husband's an idiot and burying himself in snow for 13 minutes and could die. So, but do you believe that, clearly you believe that that really is the key to making yourself seem younger?
I believe that the key to preservation for long journeys in space is freezing.
That's true.
I believe that if you do it quick enough, the cryogenic, that they're on to something there where you would have to have the absolute flash freeze, but we're going to have a way where brain activity and lung activity, just because I would think that you're still going to deteriorate.
Probably slower, but
yes. No, I still think that the organs may not. They freeze organs though to get them to a new body, and that's just with ice.
Right.
So we're talking next level freezing. Think about when they find a Neanderthal or a mammoth that was frozen quickly.
Right.
How preserved. We still find after tens of
find DNA and
out of tens of thousands of years, you can still find flesh and hair and So that tells you something, because that's still natural conditions. So if which we can clinically make
right,
a lot colder, quicker.
Right.
I just think when we get to that fusion level, that there might be a way to preserve.
I mean, I agree with you.
Have we tried freezing somebody that is alive?
I honestly don't know.
I'm sure somebody's done it. China's done it.
I'm sure somebody's done it. Well, Oleg claimed that before he did this trick that he had set 11 world records, related to surviving a cold. And his next plans are coming up very soon here in March. He plans to be immersed in the vapor of liquid nitrogen for an hour at minus 150 degrees. I don't think that was
crazy.
One that you can walk away from. Yeah. And then right after that, he plans to run 30 kilometers on Mount Elbrus, which is Europe's highest peak, with an open body. I think that means he's not going to be wearing clothing, that much clothing. Like, I don't think he's going to be naked, but I don't think he's going to be wearing any kind of protective, snow gear or anything like that.
No, I get you.
One other thing about this article that I thought was funny is there was a lot of people there, like doctors and people there from a university or a clinic or something, that he gave permission to do experiments on him if something, like when he came out, to see how his body was reacting, and heaven forbid if something had gone wrong, then he gave them permission to, do whatever they wanted, take blood, take samples, because they were really excited because they can't test on live humans in that way. And here this guy is doing it, on his own fruition.
That kind of answers my question then.
Yeah, he let them,
something, going back to the Guinness Book of World Records, something I don't like about it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the Guinness Book of World Records, and I'm just really not. And one reason is, I think it should be reserved for things we do daily.
Right.
For things that happen naturally. And this person happens to do it better. Or this person happens to do it longer. Instead of coming up with how many plates you can spin at once and stupid stuff, I get it. That's a talent. Yay.
Right.
But stuff that the common cook does that is like amazing, like makes the perfect steak in 2 minutes,
Right.
Just things like that would be more interesting to me than people coming up with stuff like, walks on hot coals or stuff like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know. It seems like if it's something that you work at and you practice, you're proud of it. I mean, just as much as the chef is proud of what he cooks, you'd be proud if you were a plate spinner. You'd be proud of how many plates you could spin, and if you could spin more than the next guy.
I'm proud of how long I can balance a broom on one finger.
See? There's probably a Guinness World Record for that.
Do you think? We should check.
There's a Guinness World Record for everything.
I can do it for eternity.
Could you?
Well, you watch me.
That's a long time.
Well, you watch me for part of eternity.
For a very small fraction. All right, so let's move on to this next story and talk about a strange creature that washed up on a beach in Mexico. I don't know what's going on with Mexico. They're getting all the weird stuff down there. And this is an odd creature that has a dolphin-like head, sharp fanged teeth, and long snake-like tail. I'm going to show you a picture. Here's the picture. See it?
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
So it does look kind of like a dolphin, but like it doesn't have all the right dolphin-y parts.
And that doesn't look right at all. I never want to see that again.
So according to the local reports, the animal doesn't have eyes, and some people predicted that it may
It kind of looks like something you order from Adam and Eve.
have come from deep in the Pacific Ocean, where there's no light, so then they wouldn't need eyes. However, some people claim that perhaps it was just disformed, like dolphin or something, and just was born and died and then got washed up on the beach. They really don't know. They have absolutely no idea where it came from or what it could possibly be. So I don't have an update for the story. I don't know if they've figured it out yet, but the picture's very disturbing because there really aren't any eyes or fins, or it's very weird. It is very weird.
Yeah, it's terrible. It looks like something that should be chasing Kevin Bacon in the desert.
It does. Yes, it does. Tremors. It looks just like that.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. Oh. All right. So I don't know what's happening in Mexico right now. Weird dolls, weird creatures. Just stay away from the water if you're in Mexico. All right. So let's move on to this next story. And this is an awesome story about an exhibit that is planned for Stanton, Friedman.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So this is about the Fredericton Region Museum. And there's a woman there named Melinda Jarrett. She's the executive director at the museum, and she's organizing this exhibit to commemorate the life and work of Stanton Friedman. Now, Friedman is from that area. And in 2017, he contacted her about creating a museum with all of his UFO documents and artifacts. He was interested in doing that for himself. And she told him, she said, that's a really big undertaking. But she did give him some advice. And she recommended that perhaps maybe he should just donate some of his materials to like the archives of New Brunswick, just to let those be in where people can search them. And he did. 5 truckloads worth of materials he sent to the archives. So that was the last time she had talked to them. So after he passed away, she contacted his daughter, Melissa, about putting together an exhibit in his memory at the museum. And of course, they were thrilled that she wanted to do that. And so she went to a storage facility and collected 8 boxes worth of Friedman's documents and some audio-visual materials and just other items that the other archives hadn't already collected. And she claims that it's going to be a suitable way to honor Stanton's legacy. And the city of Fredericton even declared August 27th, 2007, Stanton Friedman Day. I don't know why that particular day. I'm not sure if there's like a reason for that, or if they just picked it.
2007?
That's what it says in this article. It says August 27th, 2007. So I don't know if it's something that happens every August 27th, and that was the first day it was created.
We have to take a time machine back.
So the exhibit will open in July and run throughout the year. And so if you're in that area and you want to go see some of his personal, UFO documents, collection, things that he had that he was researching, they should have it there at the museum.
Very cool.
So I thought that was a pretty cool story. All right, so let's move on.
All
Ready?
right. Yes.
So this next story is about an abandoned asylum in Indiana. It's for sale.
Oh.
And it is awesome. And I have a picture of this too because I kind of want it, even though we can't really move to Indiana and live in an asylum. But look at that place. Look how amazing that is.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Do you want to live in it?
I mean, we'd have to fix it up first, but wouldn't that make a beautiful, humongous house?
For people that weren't sensitive, yes. I'm sure it would be wonderful.
So the home used to operate as the Park County Poor Asylum, and it's been closed recently, and it sits on 6.2 acres, and it's being sold as is for $200,000.
So it was a poor asylum. So they used to lock up the poor? Like, that's a real thing, the poorhouse?
I do think so, yes. I believe that's the thing. It claims it's an abandoned asylum.
That'd solve a lot of problems.
Bloomingdale, Indiana. I believe they did, and then they made them work.
Right.
And like do the food and
Huh.
keep the place clean. But it's a huge building and lots of land, very reasonable price. Of course, it needs a lot of work. It is an abandoned asylum. But if you're looking for, a paranormal property or something.
Yeah, if it's haunted, yeah.
Yeah, you could go check it out. I mean, you'd get to go see it before you paid for it.
Right.
And you could check it out, see if it was haunted, if it was.
Yeah, it's a big building. Of course it's haunted.
And it's abandoned.
Yeah.
So.
They move right in.
And it looks creepy.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
Vagabonds.
All right, well, let's move on. I just got a few more stories here to top off the show. So do you remember back in the 80s that TV show, Amazing Stories?
Mm-hmm.
The
Of course I do.
Spielberg's quirky,
Yeah, I remember it.
And I used to love that show.
Yeah, me too.
And it was really popular, at the time. I think it aired between 85 and 87. So they're rebooting the show on Apple TV Plus.
Oh.
On March 6th. So right now.
Yeah.
And you can watch the first trailer already. I'm sure the first episode's probably going to be out soon. But they're reimagining it, but they're going to try and keep that same quirky,
Right.
thing that they had back in the 80s, which I think is amazing. I'm so glad. They've been talking about it for years, but I'm so glad they brought the show back.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good show.
All right. So this next story is about a post shipment that was coming from Canada to the United States, and it was seized at the border because they found a human brain
Ooh.
in the shipment.
Was it marked Abby Normal?
It was not, but that is the first thing I thought of when I saw this story. And it was really kind of strange because it was like a routine mail operation. I don't think that they search all of those, and this one was just picked to be searched. And opening the shipment, on the manifest, they saw this weird listing for an antique teaching specimen. So they decided to see what that meant. And turned out that it was a clear glass mason jar, no paperwork, no documentation, just had a human brain specimen inside of it. And of course, that is unlawful. You can't be shipping human body organs through the mail. They will not pass customs,
You gotta
apparently.
use FedEx.
So the shipment originated in Toronto, Canada, and it was destined for Kenosha, Wisconsin. I'm not sure who ordered it, and it was probably just for a decoration.
But they live in a castle on the hill. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so they turned it over to the authorities, who is looking for the documentation, trying to figure out who sent it, where it was going, make sure it was legit and above board. But I'm pretty sure whoever ordered that is not going to get it.
No. I mean, they'll have to really put their heads together to figure it out.
Oh, that was...
It was bad.
Yeah, that was bad. So while we're on the subject of body parts,
Ooh.
here's an interesting story from Gainesville.
Okay.
In Florida. So police are investigating after jars containing preserved human tongues were found in the crawl space of a house in Gainesville. Isn't that terrible?
That's pretty bad, yeah.
Well, let me explain to you what happened. So there was a man that lived in this house. His name was Ronald Bogman. He was a former University of Florida researcher and professor. And before he was hired by the University of Florida, he was an assistant professor at this college of dentistry, but he really wanted to research thyroid conditions. He was really interested in that. And so he started collecting samples of tongues and thyroid tissues, and they were all dated. This was way back before that was not allowed. They were dated back in the 60s. I mean, this was a long time ago. He didn't do anything illegal. He did obtain them legally. But when he moved to Florida, it was so hot there that he needed a really cool place to keep them. So he put them under the crawl space in the house that he bought.
Oh my God.
So since then, him and his wife who lived there, they got a divorce. And when they got a divorce, he moved out and she got the house. He had completely forgotten. He never did his research on thyroids because, life got in the way and he got busy and moved on to other projects and just completely forgot about these 6-gallon sized jars full of tissues and tongues. And so he left them under the house and moved out and completely forgot about it. So decades later, his wife has decided to do some renovations on the house, and she had someone come over to inspect the foundation. And lo and behold, they had to call the police because they found human body parts under her house. That, do you think he really forgot? You think he really forgot about the jars?
I don't know. That's crazy.
So very crazy. They are, making sure that they're all legally obtained back in the 60s.
Yeah.
But
how do you find that out?
Well, I mean, when you order stuff like that, I suppose you have to have paperwork, and it's all dated.
It's from the 60s.
Yeah.
It's on real paperwork.
It's weird that you could do that back then. You could just call up I'm a professor and I want to do some study. Could you please send me a human whatever? And they just send it to you in a jar. All right, so let's do this very last story.
Okay.
And this is about a woman from Wisconsin.
Oh, really? Is she looking for a brain?
No, surprisingly, no, she might be. Someone called the cops on this poor woman because she was on the side of the road performing a spiritual ritual on a dead possum, trying to revive it back to life.
Well.
So apparently the woman stopped. She got out of her car when she saw the dead possum. She threw goldfish and windshield washer fluid at the animal. I'm not sure. I don't know if they mean real goldfish or goldfish crackers, because it just said she threw goldfish at them. And I'm not entirely sure where she would get live goldfish. But windshield washer fluid. And and she pulled out a Green Bay Packers lawn chair and yelled, "Repent," at the possum. So
did the possum repent?
No word if the possum actually repented. So someone called.
So was the possum playing possum?
Perhaps.
Until this crazy woman threw goldfish and
the possum really was dead. It was really roadkill. So the caller had been following the woman's vehicle because her behavior was a little erratic, and called when she started doing this weird stuff. And then she left before the police arrived. But this person, stayed and waited for the police to give their statement. The police couldn't find the woman, but had the people come and remove the roadkill from the road. So Hopefully she didn't come back to see if her little
see it,
ritual worked, because
and like its brother was there and it's alive and she's like,
oh my God,
Salvador,
I need more goldfish and windshield washer fluid.
I think it would have said goldfish crackers.
I think so too, but I don't know.
It was actual goldfish. I mean, just go to the goldfish store.
The goldfish store, the pet store.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting.
The windshield wiper fluids got me though. I wonder which one she used. If she just used blue water or she was going for the extra duty stuff.
Because I mean, I feel like that's important information if you're reviving something. You know, for ritual.
Are you using negative 30 or are you using the regular stuff? You know.
So the police didn't get her, so we'll never find out if she was under the influence or, you know, just really out doing God's work with the revival of animals. I don't know what she was doing.
It's opossum, right? That's crazy. I just wonder if it ever works. Like, it makes me want to go get some. I mean, it's not hard to acquire.
No, this is true. These are very readily available items.
We'll just go down to the local like Advance Auto and pick up some blue water and
go to the PetSmart and get some.
Go to the goldfish store and
goldfish store.
Be like, can you imagine? It'd be like, which one do you want, sweetie? Oh, it's not for her. Just give us, how many you got? 52, I think. Give us 50 of them. Mm-hmm. Nice woody number, 50. And, you know, we'll get to, I don't think there's got limits. You'd be like, we're going to put them all in a nice bowl.
Right. They're going to have room.
Yeah.
I swear.
And just go out and, you know, just see what we can revive. Wow. I throw it on a grave or something.
Don't be, that's dangerous territory. Let me bring people back from the dead.
You know, I read the other day that they were going to stop forcing people to get bodies embalmed. And
really?
Yeah, it was like it was a certain state here in the United States, and I think they were trying to pass it nationally.
Right.
Where I think you could have the old school burial, and people just die, and you could bury them in the backyard.
Is it so the chemicals don't get into the earth or something? Is it like a?
I think it might be partly that, and partly running out of room for graveyard. I don't know.
Because they have a lot of green things now where you can be a tree and stuff, and I feel like you wouldn't make a very good tree if you were embalmed.
No.
Like you wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, it's perfect though. Because that's how I want to go.
We're going to move to that state, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be messed with.
You're going to be like, I'm feeling kind of poorly. I think it's time to move to Montana or
I just
whatever
don't
state it is.
I don't want to be messed with. Nothing against people that do it as a trade, but I don't want my lips sewn. I just don't want it.
Can I put coins on your eyes?
No.
Not in them, just on top, you know?
No.
To pay the ferryman.
Well,
how are you going to pay the ferryman?
Well, what happens if I try opening my eyes and there's freaking coins there? And
I think you could probably open your eyes under some coins.
I don't know. No, don't do it. What if I'm uncomfortable for eternity because I got a freaking coin sitting on my eye?
Oh, okay.
Please, no.
All right, I won't do it. I'm going to freeze you anyway. Isn't that what you want, freezing?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know yet. I might just want to be thrown back to the sea.
Okay. Let the fishies eat you.
They wouldn't. Oh, my God.
Did I just ruin that for you?
Yeah. No, let's just build me up in a wall or something.
Oh, okay.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and then when I'll sell the house and
yeah,
people maybe will be like, "There's this weird odor. We don't know where it's coming from."
But it's surprisingly pleasant.
You're gonna decompose nicely.
Of course I am. I do everything else nicely. Well, thank you for the news.
You're welcome.
And thank all of you out there for tuning in because we appreciate it. We absolutely do. And we also appreciate when you become a patron. That's right, folks. Right now, we're running a special that's just like the old special, and it's pretty special. So go to patreon.com/paranormal sideshow and tell all your friends to check out our YouTube because there's always a lot of cool stuff on there, and it seems like thousands and thousands of people already figured that out. So we appreciate that as well. And I have to say, don't forget to listen to us starting on the 14th of March on Spaced Out Radio. And you can get that on a few terrestrial stations, you know, and all that good stuff. But go to spacedoutradio.com or check it out via the YouTube and all this stuff. And we may even live stream it like he is right now. So I don't know. It's the cool thing is it will be live. You can get in chat room. I expect all of you to show up and everybody. I want to see you all in the chat room and let's give a good support.
Yes.
Have some fun. Give me some love in there. But yeah, it's going to be, you know, like we said, Spaced Out Radio every week. Paranormal Sideshow is not going anywhere.
That's right.
We're going to keep the Sideshow a going and a coming and everything else. And for my lovely wife, Stacey, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.